name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry.
Welcome into your Tuesday night show here on World Class Bullshitters. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight are my two wonderful co-hosts. First up, all the way from the Great White North, you know him, you love him, say hello to the Script Doctor.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be here tonight, especially today's tonight. It's a good night. Good night to be here.
It is, folks. We're starting a half an hour later, but it doesn't mean we're going to give you a half hour less of awesome world-class content, because we have our other co-host, all the way from the Rippaverse. Say hello to Andy Andrew.
What's going on, Jeff? What is going on, chat? Welcome back to another Tuesday Night High Council. I am so happy to be here. It has been a great week already. I'm stoked. I think we're going to have a good show.
I know we're going to have a good show because it's Tuesday. We always have a lot of fun with the audience, and we have a lot to talk about tonight. So, folks, hit that thumbs up button for us to let us know that you enjoy the content. Keep commenting in the chat now that your names are on screen so you guys can see what is going on here on the show. And hail to everybody in the chat like Zero Dozer, Eric T, Shrubbles08, and a lot more. But let's pay attention to you guys first because we appreciate you. And then we're going to jump into a question I have. Actually, folks, I'm going to posit the question to you first. Then I'm going to read these messages.
He's flipping the script.
You know, monotony is a word I do not like. I know how to spell it. I know what it means, but I don't like what it represents. So here tonight, folks, we're shaking things up just a little bit. So shake and bake like Cal Naughton Jr. used to say. But I saw this post, and I know Reddit is no one's favorite place, but I saw an interesting post on Reddit, and I wanted to posit this question to you guys. Are Marvel, Star Wars, DC, and Lord of the Rings the four greatest fictional IPs/franchises of all time? Do you know anything that surpasses these four, in your opinion? So, folks, right now in the chat, you guys can answer that question while we read the super chat from our friend. We have two of them. First up from John Thomas, who says, "All hail the Lord Dragon! The Dark One has been sealed away in his prison again. Salk is now in Marath Dame's. Satan is cleansed. Blessed be the light. Now let's hope Darth Kennedy and the Wangs of Power go."
That's a word choice.
The Wangs, well, wait till you hear the word of the day. But the Wangs of Power. I swear if that show would have been called that, it would have been a $1 billion grossing TV show. Like, everybody and their grandma would be watching it right now.
It would also spark very peculiar speculations as to, is this an unofficial follow-up to the Flesh Gordon parodies and Wangs of Power is just the return of Wang?
Well, it would be a lot more interesting if it was.
Yeah.
Well, John, I hope that Darth Kennedy and the Wangs of Power go soon. I'm not watching the Wangs of Power. I'm not a Lord of the Rings aficionado. I like the first Fellowship of the Rings movie quite a bit. I like that one. I can honestly say I think that's a good, enjoyable film. I haven't watched The Hobbits all the way through, and I watched the Wangs of Power for about 25 seconds.
I saw both of those first two episodes that they premiered like at the same time, and at the end I was like, why did I do that to myself? And then I never watched another afterwards. Yeah, maybe there was some morbid curiosity there, but I never watched another episode afterwards.
Way to kill your flow. Sorry, I'm cackling tonight. Thank you, though, John Thomas. We definitely will be excited when Darth Kennedy goes, but, you know, it's at this point, who gives a damn? Like, we've heard about it for years from sources. We've heard about it recently from reputable sources, and then, nope, it's not happening. When she has passed on to the nether realm by way of something or other, then we'll know for sure that she's gone. But it's like a dead property. I mean, there's not much you can do. So we'll find out in the future. Now, our friend Shrubbles08 is here with the word of the day, and the word of the day is corn dog. Sisterhood of the Traveling Corn Dog.
Maybe in 2025.
Yeah, well, in 2025, times are tough, and you have to travel with that one corn dog because all you can afford is, you know.
No, I was saying because sister and never mind.
Oh, I thought it was an economic joke, man. It went right over my head.
No, it was a different kind of joke. It's okay.
Oh, at 10 o'clock we can make those jokes.
Okay.
Sorry. This is like NYPD Blue. At 10 o'clock you can show Dennis Franz's ass. We won't, but you can. We also have a couple corn dog titles like Dude, Where's My Corn Dogs? Star Wars Race Corn Dog Night, and Debbie Does Corn Dog. I think Guy Fieri should direct that one.
No, Debbie Does Corn Dog. There's almost enough D's in the title for him to do that one.
Oh, he is too.
I spit on your corn dog.
The Living Corn Dogs.
Festival of the Living Corn Dogs.
Harry Potter and the Chamber of Corn Dogs.
Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Corn Dogs.
Right. Then you got to go Indiana Jones and the Temple of Corn Dogs.
That's good. That's good. Indiana Jones and the Last Corn Dog.
Ooh.
Monty Python's The Meaning of Corn Dog.
Monty Python and the Holy Corn Dog.
Well, let's see. The chat,
Sex,
we have
coffee,
children
and corn dogs. Yeah.
Children of the
sounds
Corn
delicious.
Dog. That's pretty good. That's
Yeah.
pretty
Oh,
good.
that's a good one. Yeah.
We have
Nicely
Dawn of the
done.
Living Corn Dogs. Hunt
In
for
the
Red
mouth of corn dog.
Or corn dogs on the map are more like it. Gone with the corn dog, when corn dogs attack. That's my favorite one for tonight, when corn dogs attack.
Corn dogs attack.
It's a Fox special with, oh God, what was that guy's name who was the narrator? Well, fuck, we'll just use John Walsh. Or we'll get Jonathan Frakes. One of the Johns. There you go. Miss Ninja Julian, you win the corn dog title of the evening.
How
But
about
shout
Killer
out-
Corn Dogs from Outer Space?
Ooh, that's a good one too.
I like that. Very schlocky.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to do if I had more time and I wasn't working on Stealing Solo 2, cheap plug, I would draw these random ass titles because it would be so fun to draw Attack of the Living Corn Dogs or When Corn Dogs Attacks. So,
That'd be a great Patreon thing, like for certain tiers, like they get access. Like you pick your top favorite whatever word of the week or word of the day thing from the streams, and you do a quick sketch of that. Maybe you ink it, maybe you don't, and you throw that up on Patreon specifically for
I'm
whatever
writing
tier.
I'm writing that down because I get messages. People ask me to do more integration of the art, and I'm happy to. I work on this stuff all the time, but I want to keep the channel balanced for the people that like it and the people that aren't aware of it yet. But
And for
I'm
you,
writing
that could be
down.
your warm-up sketch for the day.
That'd be nice.
Get the creative juices going.
My warm-up sketches now are just random bodies in interesting poses, so I never have boring fight scenes. That's my my number one prerogative. Like right now I'm drawing shit where people are just sitting in a car, they're being kidnapped by Mark Hamill, so they're in this like van. And you know, there's only so much you can do in this tight space, and I draw it small to make it feel claustrophobic. But later on there is a quote unquote lightsaber duel, and that's where the action will break out of the panels and it'll be balls to the wall insanity. Somebody might die in this book. I'm just saying.
Oh. I bet it's Kendo.
I was thinking Alden Elric because he plays the second Han Solo. Not a good one, but you know, he's there.
I will tell you where he falls into this story one of these days off air because it's a big
Okay.
twist and I don't want to ruin it for the audience. But
And if I'm not mistaken, he is the cliffhanger at the end of.
yep, the book ends with us going to some random door. Mr. Aldenreich, we need to talk, and then it just ends. So you'll find out in the sequel. Overkill 161 says corn dog and Stitch. Look who's corn dogging on corn dog ground and a holiday
God.
favorite. Ernest saves corn dogs. All right, I like the Ernest one too.
The Nightmare Before Corn Dogs.
The corn dog redemption.
Oh. It's not
I
bad.
think corn dogs need to be redeemed. They were always delicious. Script.
They're
So,
pretty
folks, keep sending in all your corn dog titles all night long. We will read them. We will laugh at them. But when corn dogs attack, that's the one you folks in the chat have to beat tonight. Now, do you guys want to start with... well, let's find out if the audience has answered that question about those 4 big properties. Because we have that, we have a little bit of controversy, and then we have some fun topics to talk about. So, I asked you guys a moment ago, are those 4 properties, Marvel, Star Wars, DC, and Lord of the Rings, the biggest of all time? And if not, what would be bigger? Andrew, Script, how would you guys
Marvel.
answer that question?
Marvel, Star Wars, DC, and Lord of the Rings. So I think the first three are correct, but as much as I adore Tolkien's Legendarium, oh well, okay. What's the qualifier for biggest? Are we talking grossing? Are we talking about just like global
Cultural impact.
recognizability, cultural impact, things like that? Yeah.
That's what. Well, this is the question that's posted. But I would say in terms of just like overall reach and appeal, because
I
I'm
would
not a Lord of the
probably
Rings
honestly
guy.
have to swap out Lord of the Rings for Pokemon.
I would definitely take out Lord of the Rings as that one, because from different generations, Marvel and DC. Like, if you would ask me
Starving
this
children in
question,
the Congo know who Superman is. So
yeah,
as much as DC's movies have sucked for the last decade and a half for the most part, they still know who Superman is. He's got cultural impact.
yeah. The chat's saying Pokemon is bigger. It's hard to not acknowledge Pokemon or
It's
even
the
like
highest grossing IP globally,
Right
period.
now, yeah, it's been consistent because it hasn't any fall offs. Because prior to Pokemon, the next generation of newest, highest grossing original IP was Power Rangers.
yeah, it's Morphin time, bitches. Sorry, that was my childhood right there. They can leave that one alone. But I think in our sphere, people really love Lord of the Rings, and it's quality work. I'm not oblivious to
It's
it.
it will outlast. It could possibly outlast Pokemon because Pokemon's got an oversaturation element to it right now, where there's like what over 2,500 Pokemon now, or something of that nature.
It's far too many.
There's just over 1,000.
Oh, okay, so it's not that much. Okay, just over 1,000. That's still a
Yeah.
lot.
They're in the ninth generation, so the ninth region of Pokemon at this point. The next one, whenever that comes out, that'll be the 10th, and so at that point, it'll be probably somewhere just north of like 1,100, somewhere between 11 and 1,200 is probably
So,
where it'll
so it's
end.
basically like a generations every 2 years or so, or 2 or 3 years.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense because I think Pokemon came out like what 98, 99 in stateside.
The stateside was 98. Yeah, it was 98. And then in 2000 is when we got gold and silver.
Yeah, because I remember my friends telling me, "Oh yeah, it's about an electric mouse," and I was thinking like
That's a basic
Canine from
sell.
Doctor Who for a while, and none of them could have said, "Oh, it's like an electric eel," and said it's a big yellow mouse. I'm like, because that made more sense than just saying electric mouse. Because I'm thinking, well, electronic, robotic, that type of thing. No, it's not. Wasn't that at all? And then I saw it. And I'm like, you idiots! It's like an electric eel, but super powered. Why did you just say that? That's more accurate than electric mouse.
My point with the Lord of the Rings is before those movies came out, nobody really talked about Lord of the Rings.
It was
Like,
pretty niche. Like you had to be a big sci-fi fantasy book lover in order to even know it existed.
The movies is what made it more of a pop culture thing at the time.
Yeah,
But
totally.
still not to the level of like what the MCU did with
and it comes
Marvel.
and goes too. Like, I know that the toy aisle is not the be all end all of brand recognition.
No, but it
Lord of the-
is a worthwhile measure of like how popular something is
Yeah, and
on a marketable scale, right?
There were Lord of the Rings figures for the movies and the Hobbit stuff, and there were games, and now there's Lord of the Rings on TV, but that's about it. Like, that's why I wouldn't put 007 in here, because James Bond comes and goes. Like, Star Wars may have had a brief rest period from 85 to like 93, but since 1993, it's been consistently around. This is probably the lowest period it's had in my entire fandom, because the prequels ended, and then they went into the Clone Wars and all this other shit, and the video games were bigger deals. It was like there was this happiness, this sense of completion, but people were still happy to like know the full story, and it stuck around. I would say like maybe like even Godzilla or something really has longer staying power than like Lord of the Rings, but I guess it's more niche too. But is Lord of the
It's hard to that's a harder one to measure just because we had a year where there was like back-to-back big Godzilla movies, both of which performed very well against their budget. So it's kind of hard to measure that. And it's been a while since we had a Lord of the Rings thing in theaters. The closest thing we have measuring stick wise is Rings of Power, which did not do well. Right.
No.
So it's hard to really compare the two, but I guess in terms of global reach, Godzilla probably still would edge Lord of the Rings out. I don't know. What do you think, Script? I love both, so I don't have that much of a dog in this fight because I'm just like, cool, give me the 4K collection of that. Give me the 4K collection of that. Give me all the toys.
I mean, Godzilla has a huge cultural impact. However, growing up, every once in a while, I'll always see something carved either into a bus depot or the side of a building, the words "Frodo lives," and that was pretty cool. I can't think of something comparable to many other franchises that has that type of thing where it's that hidden message that you can do. And if you know type of thing. Like I know there were, not to get too off the rails, but I do know that there are Zack Snyder fans that try to say full circle, if you know, you know, and they're really just pulling crap out of their ass because there's nothing. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay. I do not want to go on an Andrew clowning on Zack Snyder rant here, but do you remember the post going around? It was just after they had released the Snyder Cut. Mm-hmm. And they were like now trying to campaign for, well, that wasn't enough. Just give us the movie, right? Just give us the one movie. No, now it was bring back the Snyderverse. Now it's sell Snyderverse to Netflix, which isn't how that works at all. That's not how the Force works. But there were posts going around of like it was a picture or a photo of a Superman statue where he had like his hands in specific places, and people were trying to do all this like 16D. Mental gymnastics saying, oh, well, this many fingers closed or open means that he has this many more films in his pocket to go. And I'm like, dude, go outside, please.
Fan theories are my least favorite part of the internet, and they can turn me off from liking like Back to the Future, formerly my favorite movie. If I read one more ridiculous fan theory about how time travel works or people just not understanding the movie, I have to remove myself from that entire like fan base because those questions are answered, and it's not my responsibility to even have to read your stupidity. But I digress. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I mean I think that I know that phenomenon because that's majority on Facebook.
Yes, I know Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook is a terrible. I mean, there's a lot of good aspects to it when building communities and stuff, but it is a terrible place for movie fan theories because they're all the dumbest stuff you'd see at like. The type of person that they're like in their late 40s and they claim they go to conventions, but they've never been to one. And when they go in there and they get into a group and then they vomit out their ideas and everybody's like, what are you, like 10? Like, this is the type of stuff we've already covered and resolved like decades ago. Is this the first time here? Because we'll welcome you, but don't spout out, basically derivative stuff as if you're the first person to think of it.
Yeah. Like, I'll stop because seriously, I'll spend 2 hours going on about Back to the Future.
That'll be another. We'll do that show on October 15th, 2025.
That's its own show.
Yeah. Why I can't stand Back to the Future anymore. Eric makes an excellent point though in the chat. What about Nintendo? Would you consider Nintendo a franchise like this? Because if so, I would put Nintendo over Lord of the Rings by like a 50-mile lead. Because Mario's a household name. Everybody knows Super Mario. Everybody knows Legend of Zelda, Donkey Kong, like all of those things and their spin-offs. That's like modern. That's what like the Disney characters were for a generation, multiple generations ago. Like your Mickey Mouse and your Goofy, you replaced it with Mario and Donkey Kong. Everybody knows these characters. So if video game franchises count, I'd put Nintendo.
Yeah, I'd say Nintendo dominates. Nintendo would basically be on par with regards to cultural impact as Marvel and DC. Star Wars would be definitely below Nintendo because again, Star Wars had a lot of peaks but some really deep valleys, and it didn't kind of come into a resurgence until the prequel trilogy. Then it kind of went into a valley, and then when Disney got their hands on it and then did that Force Awakens trailer, that's when Star Wars got to its highest peak of popularity, and then crap the bed on that for the rest of the duration.
Call me Nostradamus because I knew it from the moment they announced that. Like when they showed the first picture, I'm like, oh God, I just felt it.
Oh, as soon as Disney was buying Marvel and then Star Wars, I'm like, well, those franchises are on a very short ticking clock.
I was less pessimistic towards the Marvel announcement because I thought Well, I'm pretty sure their early announcement was like, we're just going to continue the MCU the way it is. And this would have been '09.
Yeah.
So
Little
I'm
did
like,
we know.
yeah.
I
They
was
kind of
the only
did for a
one.
while, but then there were the signs, and all of a sudden, like as soon as that first, 3
As,
phase thing ended, it was like, oh,
as soon as I learned that Disney was opting to buy the distribution rights for the Marvel Studios, and that I was like, this is bad. And then when I started hearing about complications on Iron Man 2, I'm like, well, that's Disney for you. and lo and behold, that's what happened. God, Disney, yeah. Well, we've said it a million times before. Disney is not a company that creates new IPs. They buy existing stuff or take public domain stuff. They Disneyfy it to their brand and hope for the best. And sometimes it works phenomenally, and other times it's Star Wars and Marvel.
You know, it's a franchise that I like, but I never realized how small of a niche it truly is Ghostbusters. Because
Yeah.
Ghostbusters appeals to an older audience, and it's the Ghostbusters fan base is really bizarre to me because they keep trying and I'm on all these groups and stuff, and everyone's trying to push it to the next generation. It's like, oh, the kids love Ghostbusters. It's like some kids love Ghostbusters. Some kids like this stuff because some kids like every property, Some kids like Lupin the Third, even though it's not really a popular thing in America.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed they're really pushing for Ghostbusters to carry on. I don't think Ghostbusters carries on. When Gen X dies off and the people my age are out of the buying range of shit, I don't think Ghostbusters makes it anymore. I think we're really past that point. And it has nothing to do with the female Ghostbusters reboot. They redeemed it with Afterlife. They came out with Frozen Empire that was like a wet fart in church. And now it's just like, oh, Ghostbusters, we're going to do something with it. Please don't. You shouldn't have touched it since 1989, but whatever. I don't think that franchise will ever do anything of note again because the main characters are just so old and still talented, but I really don't want to watch 80-year-old Dan Aykroyd running around in a cult shop telling the little kid about Tobin's Spirit Guide. It's time to let
No,
it go.
you're not gonna. I mean, there might be a revival of the franchise as it was, like the first 2 films and maybe a couple seasons of the cartoon show down the road. But I don't think it'll ever reach the peak that it is because I love the Ghostbuster fandom. They are a fun bunch. They're weird to a degree, but they are a fun bunch. Some of them have actually made some really amazing fan films, their original stories. They don't feel like they're just aping Ghostbusters the way a lot of Star Wars fan films feel like they're just aping Star Wars. But on top of that, Ghost Corps, which was started up by Ivan Reitman and Dan Aykroyd, and it's in partnership with Sony. They're really cool. And I mean, the thing is, even with Jason Reitman trying to keep his dad's legacy alive of Ghostbusters, especially because that was some of the films that kind of made him who he was, so that he could be this great producer and this creative force that sadly missing from Hollywood. I think even to the point the too obscure indie side of what Jason Reitman is doesn't fully measure up to what Ghostbusters needs. I mean, I think Afterlife was a great tribute to what those movies were and those characters were, and to his father, and to what they were trying to do. And it's a nice conclusion. Frozen Empire had some great potential, but they dropped the ball huge in some parts there. I mean, especially when they you don't mix supernatural on the side of good. One of the under themes of Ghostbusters is it's science and ingenuity versus supernatural. And then they put in Kunal Manjani, who I think he's a fraud. He's not a good stand-up comic. He had one good script, which I think his wife did most of the heavy lifting on because she actually has a pretty strong background in story and writing. And he's a flavor of the month, which they used. And that's antithetical to what was going on with Ghostbusters. They never pulled in someone that was just the flavor of the month. They're like, no, we want some really good talent here. When we cast for Walter Peck, we made sure that we got Will Atherton because we knew how good of an actor he was. When we wanted to get, a new countervillain, the mayor's assistant, we got, oh God, his name just escaped me. But, the big tall guy who's in Wayne's World.
Kurt Fuller.
Kurt Fuller, thank you. They did it. They got people that were character actors that had good comedic timing in what they did. You get Kamal Nanjiani, he has terrible comedic timing, like for an actor. And also, it's really hard for me to take a grown man who has a lisp seriously.
Mm.
Like every
I
actor
mean,
that every actor that
yeah.
had a lisp worked really, really hard to get rid of it. Samuel L. Jackson spent a decade trying to get rid of his lisp so he could be an actor, and he did it. And Kamal Nanjiani, like he has a lisp. He sounds very effeminate
He does.
for an allegedly straight man.
I wish you were on a Thursday night show because Nick and Kendo hate him.
Oh,
Like,
great.
TLC
Yeah, let's
Screwjob says,
get together
he's
and
called,
just kind of trash this guy and his crappy writing and terribly lazy stand-up. And how
he's called Kumi Nabjabi on this channel.
Like he was also, I mean, of all the terrible sketches in History of the World Part 2 on Hulu, his was some of the worst.
I forgot that came out, and I heard it was so bad, which made me so sad because the first one is
Brilliant.
it is chef's kiss. It is amazing. It's one of the greatest pieces of comedy I've ever seen on film.
Yeah, and the best joke was the fact that there would never be a part 2, and yet
Yeah, that was the whole part of it. That's why they called it part 1.
Mel Brooks.
Way to not understand the assignment.
Well, so Mel Brooks he's a very funny guy when it comes to certain niches of comedy. But the thing is, he relied a lot on other people that were more talented than him, that he knew was more talented than him, to actually get things going. Like, so many people attribute Young Frankenstein as a Mel Brooks film. It's a Mel Brooks directed film, but Gene Wilder wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the jokes that you find in Young Frankenstein, Mel Brooks has literally copied and repurposed for his other movies after Young Frankenstein. And I'm perfectly happy with that because it's fine. Like the whole walk this way joke, that's invented from Gene Wilder. The putting on the Ritz gag, that's Gene Wilder, because Mel Brooks didn't think that nobody would like that. And Gene says, like, I'm telling you, people are going to love it if we do it. And then he filmed it, did it in the test screening, and people just lost their minds. They were in stitches laughing.
I love the guy's work too, but the one critique I will have is Robin Hood Men in Tights and Spaceballs are way more similar than I ever realized as a kid. And so I don't watch them both anymore. I just watch Spaceballs because I don't feel that Robin Hood Men in Tights is worthwhile, comparatively speaking. But that's also the reason why, like Spaceballs, I have it on every format that exists, and I never owned Robin Hood Men in Tights. But Blazing Saddles is the shit. I see people in the chat talking about it.
Brilliant. So, funny part, the screenwriter who wrote Striptease actually wrote the very first draft of Blazing Saddles. I have been hunting for that screenplay for 15 years. Because I don't...
15?
Yeah, because I don't think anyone's actually scanned it. Like, it's only in a physical form, and there's only so many copies.
Right.
But this was a screenplay. Alan Arkin did an interview with Kevin Pollak on Kevin Pollak's chat show, and he talks about this screenplay, and he says... This screenplay was funnier than what Mel Brooks did with Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, I need to read this now.
And I've been trying to find it because I got to see these jokes. And the concept was still the same, but it was just a really funny script. And Alan Arkin talks about it. He doesn't really say much of the jokes, but he just says that every page he was turning, he was laughing. And then when he tried to follow up to get like one of the part, to be the Gene Wilder role, the script decides that he was reading was completely different from the script that he got earlier. And then when he saw the movie, it was completely different, still funny, but completely different than the one that he read originally. And oh man, I would love to get my hands on that. Like I have asked some of the oldest screenwriters I know if they've read it or they know where it is, and they've heard about it and they haven't found it. And it's like this mythical holy grail of screenplays.
If you ever find a way to read it, let me know. Because I fancy myself that I write comedy more than I write anything else. Like these graphic novels I do, I'm like, okay, they're meant to be funny. People think they are. I don't think of myself as any other type of writer, and I just love to study that stuff. I mean, that's why I read that giant tome on SNL and read every book about Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi and all these other guys. Like, I love that kind of stuff, to see how and why the stuff that's so funny came to be. So
Yeah, I've been looking at archives trying to find some of the stuff that Harold Ramis used to write when he was for National Lampoon and second SCTV and all that stuff, and trying to get into his head because I thought Harold Ramis is some of the best comedic writers of the 20th century.
I think he's the funniest Ghostbuster.
He is.
Just that look, that do re Egon, and then he like kind of looks into the camera. It's just like that dude.
Good tongue-in-cheek thing.
Yeah.
But not only that, like he has one of the best cut scene jokes in the original Ghostbusters, which is the mayor. Oh, sorry. Walter Peck accuses them of making nerve gas, and Egon says, or buying nerve gas, and Egon says, preposterous. If we needed nerve gas, we know how to make it ourselves. And it's like such a bad answer to show how smart and clever they are.
I love that movie. Time to watch it again.
Should do it.
But yeah, look, actually, I watched it not that long ago after I completed Blockbusters. I was like,
So?
I gotta take a break from this movie because I feel like I lived in it making this other book. So
Okay. Maybe you need to shift influences since you're doing Stealing Solo too. Fair enough.
I don't need to rewatch Star Wars ever again. I can quote that shit from memory. That's not something I'm proud of. But even before this
No,
channel,
you should be proud of that. Be proud of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, just on Star Wars Day a couple days ago, someone shared the original cut of the Death Star attack from '77,
Yeah.
and I was shocked how just after a couple of music cues, I knew exactly what line was going to come next. Say it,
Mhm.
do it. It's like, watch your back, Luke. Watch your back. Fighters coming in, like all those types of stuff. And
3
you're like,
marks at 210.
yeah,
Well, yeah. Well, when I'm watching them, when I'm watching the movies, I can like quote all the lines in sync with the characters in both the prequel trilogy for Star Wars, A New Hope, and the Jurassic Park trilogy. And actually the first Jurassic World, now that I think about it.
Dude, I learned
There aren't
that
many
George-
movies outside of that I can do that with. Aside from like Spider-Man 1 and 2 and the first X-Men movie.
It's
I could
so
probably
weird
do it
that
with
you-
both the Amazing Spider-Man movies.
It's weird
too.
that you can quote Spider-Man better than me because I like those. I love the first 2 original ones, but I watched them so much. But I would like draw when I watched them because I was like getting inspiration. Or I'd pause
okay.
the movie and I'd be like, "How do you draw this?" And like,
Yeah.
when in 2004, I bought every like food item that Spider-Man was on, and I really wasn't worried about eating it. I used to sit
It's a
and draw
blue
from
and
the
red cheeseburger.
Well, dude, I used to sit and draw from like Dr. Pepper cans. I would be like, okay, because we had the internet, but YouTube wasn't around, so it was a little harder to find like clips and trailers of these things. So I was like, all right, I'll just look at the box of cereal. I'll look at this how to draw book, and movies. It was like I could quote Star Wars, maybe Back to the Future, Beetlejuice pretty well. What was one? The second Austin Powers. I used to watch that and quote that. I would like go up to people and say, hey, look, it's a giant flying Johnson. And they'd be like, what?
Yeah.
And I would just do the whole bit. It's like a 12-year-old kid.
There's only one thing I like about Austin Powers.
That
And
they
it's
don't make
Elizabeth
them anymore.
Hurley.
I like Heather Graham a little more.
they're both pretty
He's
good.
thrown.
They're both 10s. If only I was so lucky to turn down one for the other. John Thomas, thank you very much for all your generosity this evening. John says, the Hobbit movies were meh at best. 70s Rankin and Bass was the
Accurate.
better one. I like that one. The Greatest Adventure has now just begun. My previous was a Wheel of Time canceled reference. Script, have you read the books?
I read the first 2 Wheel of Time books way back in high school. So this would be like 1999 would probably be when I started doing them. So that'd be like second year, third year high school. Can't remember. But never was able to continue them. Got again. I was let's see, 3-4 years into my eventually 10-year relationship at that time, and hormones were basically occupying more of my interest than reading.
Been
So
there.
yeah, I don't regret my decision. I've read enough. I read enough fantasy, sci-fi, horror books up until that point that I was happy to take 4 to 5 years off to spend that with my girlfriend in the heat of passion.
That's why I do love a good comic book, because you can just like go to the bathroom and read a couple, and then do whatever you got to do for the rest of your day.
Oh man, my friends would be.
You have no idea how accurate that is.
My friends would be shocked how fast I could blast through a comic book. Like whenever we go on like a field trip, and it would be a 45-minute drive, I'd have my backpack full of floppies, and I would end up reading the entire thing on that bus, which would be like, I don't know, like 50 comic books or so. And I just
Oh wow.
read all of them. Super, like, I got every part. I could describe some of the panels. The only thing I was always really terrible at is recognizing inkers, artists, and writers' names, because I'd always just look at the stuff first before I'd go back and be like, oh, who inked it or who penciled that or whatever. That part came much later in my reading of comics life. So yeah, I'm still like bad with it. I can name maybe a handful of writers off the top of my head, but when you take a look at like my digital archive that I got from when I worked with Warner Brothers, plus the physical stuff I have, it's like, yeah, you read a lot of comic books.
I have honed that skill. I'm like, oh, look, it's a John Byrne drawing. How do you know? Well, look at the length of the torso or the thinness of the arms. You can tell that it's from his later phase. Oh, hey, look, it's a John Romita Spider-Man, but that one's from the 90s. How do you know? Because he adds more black to the waist. Like, I know all that shit because I draw it, but, like, that's where my brain hones in.
Well, we're also talking John Romita, so of course you would know very, very explicitly.
But honestly, I can tell a lot of guys' newer style versus their older style. Like, people think like Jim Lee draws the same as he drew 30 years ago.
No, he does not.
Not at all.
No, his stuff on X-Men does not look anything like his more recent stuff that he's done, like at DC. In the rare blue moon that he draws something, right?
It's still exciting to see his work. I know some people have varying opinions on Jim Lee, but it's like,
he's not my favorite, but I do love and appreciate his work nonetheless. I loved his stuff on X-Men growing up. I love his stuff when he does Batman.
It always feels right when he picks up a title. You're like, oh man, he's on Batman again. His Batman. Yeah. It's like the way my brain works with these things. I'm sure people have the way they feel about movies or certain books, but it's like when he's on it, the character reaches a form that's like rivaled by Neil Adams and maybe Bruce Timm and a couple other classic looks. You don't really get that much. I know some people don't like Romita Jr., but I'm like, when you get him on the book, you're getting like one of the last classic Spider-Man artists that are around still, and it's kind of cool to see the work back.
Did you see he's doing a book with Mark Millar?
Another one?
Yeah, they just announced it today. They're doing a new project together. I forget what it's called.
I will check it out.
It was just like this big announcement, big to do. I've been busy all day with work, like almost up until this stream, aside from like a quick dinner break.
I saw it on his Twitter feed. I can't remember what it was, but it was a cool little video that he put together for the.
Yeah, they put together a full freaking trailer for it.
I'll have to check it out. I'm very partial. Like I got back into reading comics. I reactivated my pull list. I'm oddly excited for Superman, so I'm like, hey, Man of Steel #1, let's give this a read. Haven't read it yet. It was only on Saturday. But
is that the back issue or like current read?
There's a brand new one. The John Byrne one, that's my favorite Superman. Like that look, especially that panel when he's flying up over the Kent house. Like everybody knows that panel.
Oh yeah.
That, to me, that's what Superman should look like. I know Kurt Swan is some people's preferred, or Wayne Boring with the giant boxy chest, but give me that one.
Kurt Swan's pretty good, but I like John Burns. When Neil Adams has done a couple of Superman, I enjoyed them. He did mostly Green Lantern and Batman, but man, like Neil is my favorite artist. I do like Jim Ballant or Blaylant. Sorry, I keep forgetting how.
Oh, Catwoman guy.
Yeah, Catwoman guy. He's not bad. I do have some of his runs, which art is pretty good. He knows how to really captivate the Greek sexy style of a woman.
My very first Superman comic was Superman the Man of Steel, Beginning of Tomorrow, #0, by Simonson. I actually have a signed copy.
Cool.
What was that title? Because I think I read that as a little kid.
That was when we were young? It would have, yes, it would have been when we were young, because this was the like first like launch pad issue after the 0 Hour event. So this was we were kids. So it was Superman the Man of Steel.
Okay. I'm gonna look that up because I swear
it was like 94.
I think I read this as I had this as a kid. Yep. Cool.
That was one of my first two superhero comics. The other one was The Flash, 0, Beginning of Tomorrow. I also have that one signed.
I have one signed. No, I have two signed comic. One from John Romita and another one from Mike McCone. Because I didn't really want to ask Neil Adams for his autograph because I was working for him and he was like giving advice and teaching you shit by like to watch. So I'm like, and he offered me free prints and stuff. I was like, I'll take the free advice, because what am I gonna do with a print? I'm just being honest. I don't do prints. I'll do books. I'll do collected editions, but I'd rather just use up that.
Well, you clearly made use of his advice because your art's great.
Well, thank you. I'm not Neil Adams. Never gonna try to be Neil Adams, but he's one of my favorites too. Like,
he's one of my all-time favorite Batman artists for sure.
A script you brought up, his Superman's rare, but Superman versus Muhammad Ali, that's a really cool book, folks.
Yeah.
If you never checked that out. Like, I would argue that some people don't like classic comics because of the art, and I feel like you're missing out, because a lot of modern stuff has like a nice slick veneer with computer coloring and certain types of lines, which I like. I use it in my own stuff. But that classic Neil Adams work where he labored over every damn panel and the anatomy's on point and it's, hyper detailed. It's so different from what was out at the time. It's like going from what was that movie? Oh, not Flight of the Navigator. What's the one? Last Starfighter. You go from CGI to like the Avengers. You're just like, wow, what a world of difference. You're like really looking at that guy's art as a huge jump, because
I think it's a matter of perspective, because maybe from just somebody who's just a reader, right, a consumer or whatever you want to call them, somebody who just reads the comics, enjoys the comics, but isn't like an artist themselves. Right? They don't look at it from the same perspective as what you would, or somebody who's maybe like really looking at the art at a much deeper level, right? And seeing the layers that were built over the decades to get to where we are now, and why we have some of that really cool and dynamic art that we have now. It's because those guys laid the groundwork, right? And there's a lot of stuff, I think there's a lot of appreciation lost for it. Because, I mean, I'll be the first to say, like, Golden Age and Silver Age comic book art is not my favorite thing in the world. However, there is important groundwork and foundational stuff that's laid in those eras with these characters that we wouldn't have any of the coolest stuff that we do today if it weren't for those guys.
Agreed. I think that is... some would argue the Golden Age is the most important because it brings in the superhero and Superman and all that. But I think the Silver Age is so important to what we've adapted. Like, the first phase of Marvel really copies the 60s. You got Iron Man's origin. The first Avengers story is fairly accurate to how it's portrayed in the early Avengers books. Like, that movie was, I know a lot of people are like, I hate Marvel. That's fine. They've disappointed me too. I'm not going to act like you're wrong. But when they were good, and they used to get it. They captured the spirit of all these things, so... our friend John Thomas also has a special message for scripter Andrew. Have either of you read Saga of the Recluse or Imager Portfolio by L.E. Modesset? I think Script would appreciate the unique magic system in both. No one else is remotely similar.
I'm not familiar with that.
Nope, that's out of my purview, but I will take a look at Saga of...
I'll take a note.
Yeah, or Imager Portfolio. Modest.
I will take a note on that.
Yeah.
I like magic stuff. I like fun. I like seeing writers that play around with magic systems, not just to varying degrees of how in depth they go with it, right? Or whether or not it's a hard magic system or a soft magic system, but just the different approaches that they take to it, like the actual intricacies, what sets this one apart from another. That stuff's fun to me. I love that kind of crap.
If I ever do something with magic, make sure I'm okay, because that is something I don't understand. I understand it, but creatively, I'm always like, magic always seems like...
High fantasy is my genre. That's my favorite genre.
See, I guess that's why I like sci-fi, because I like the unreal... I like not the supernatural, that's not the right word. I like the fantastical elements, but I also like spaceships and aliens and monsters and the gears and all that stuff. I don't find a horse very fascinating to ride on, but I'll, a speeder bike or a floating platform, that kind of shit. Completely unreal. But I don't know. I guess because that seems like so unrealistic to our world.
Oh, I love high sci-fi as well. That's why I like Star Wars more than Star Trek. Because I like adding more, fantastical elements to it than just kind of more science or pseudoscience, right? I don't need it to make sense. I just need it to be cool and fun and entertaining.
That's all I care about. It needs to be fun these days. If it's goofy and it makes me laugh and I enjoy it, like Final Destination 6, that's a good time.
Oh, you saw it?
Oh, dude, I saw that last week.
Oh.
I've been going to the movies quite a bit this year, and I've enjoyed most movies I've seen. I would give the nod as the worst of the year to Captain America 4. That movie was shit, but I didn't dislike Thunderbolts. I'm a little sad it flopped. And I saw Mission Impossible. I saw Final Destination. I've been busy on the weekends. Besides
I
working.
I actually didn't catch the stream because I was in the theater. But
We all liked it.
I
all
loved
gave
that
it a good
movie so
score.
much. It's not my favorite one.
No.
In order to judge it against the rest, I don't allow myself to judge a movie fully until I've seen it twice. But baseline, I'd put it above the last one, but probably below the prior three to that. So Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, and Fallout, which, to be fair, are my three favorites of the franchise. So it's like, all right, well, this is my least favorite of my top four, right? So it's like, but I really enjoyed it. I had a great time. Seeing it in IMAX was great. And I will say this, I can't remember the last time I was so stressed out and anxious watching a scene in a movie as when he was in the sub
Oh yeah.
under the water. Like that was just really it's not like anything super graphic was happening or anything. It was just
claustrophobic.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't think I'm claustrophobic, but I don't like being in super confined spaces for an extended period of time. And the fact, just with all the things that were going on and the context behind that scene, I was like, man, get the hell out of there now because you're stressing me the hell out.
I'm more impressed that drive survived being soaked under seawater.
That's true.
Yeah.
I thought the airplane scene was just great.
I mean,
that was fun. That was so fun.
The action set pieces were cool. I was kind of confused because William Donlow's character in the first Mission Impossible was married. So I guess he got divorced after he was shipped away and then found his new wife. Because that was kind of weird. But
I thought it was weird that everybody knew who he was. Like,
well,
it was like in The Force
believe
Awakens.
that Tom Cruise would and Luther would know who he was because of
they were part of that mission.
They're part of that mission. Benji maybe only as a result of like studying up on how much he liked Ethan Hunt. But the thing, I mean, I enjoyed the movie and enjoyed the set pieces, but was really perplexing me is the motivation of this entity. Like, it was very unclear. I mean, I understood what Gabriel wanted to do. He wanted to control it because that would give him power to control a whole bunch of other systems throughout the rest of the planet. Same thing with the United States and other governments. That stuff made sense. But the entity itself, I'm like, it's going to blow up all of humanity. Okay, why?
Well, that's one of those things where anytime you deal with AI
in want to be controlled or something, like it just felt weird. And it's like
I will say that the premise in terms of the AI, like, and that's one of the reasons why, at least some initial viewing, I knock it back behind my top three for sure. Because the Gabriel felt like a strong villain, kind of. There was still some holes there for sure, but the entity, if the entity is supposed to be the primary antagonist of this two-film thing, we don't really know what its motivation is, and that is a knock to it for sure. And it kind of felt like it fell into that sort of cookie cutter, AI bad, AI goes rogue for whatever reason. It decides it's just the thing it needs to do is wipe out humanity or cause humanity to wipe out itself, right? And it's like, okay, but why? I still enjoyed the hell out of the film, but mostly because of everything else that was going on with the other characters. I really didn't actually care about the entity. And that's unfortunate because in all the previous films, I was really invested in whoever the antagonist was because they did a really good job with that. I will say, like, during the Jeff brought up the plane scene at the end with the finale. The way that Gabriel went out caught me off guard.
Oh, I was
like, oh shit! And I wasn't the only person either. Like just about the entire row, it was great. Like my theater was basically sold out, probably like 90%. And for a 10 p.m. show, by the way, this was a 10 p.m. IMAX show. Like we were all laughing at the same spots, we were all cheering at the same spots, we were all gasping at the same spots. But that moment where Gabriel eats it, we like several of us in a row were like, "Oh shit!" or "Oh my god," because that's not how I expected him to go out.
Well, not only that, it's a little bit more gruesome than what we've ever seen in other Mission Impossible films because they usually cut away before
Yeah,
we see that type of stuff.
you're right. Yeah, we don't usually see super graphic stuff. That was probably one of the most graphic deaths
the
in
other
the
thing.
franchise.
You know what was kind of missing from this? Usually when you have this big set piece and Ethan Hunt's going to do his like triumphant like achievement part, you get the Mission Impossible theme. I felt like that was missing at some point in some
That was missing. That was missing, I think, at least at a certain point during the plane chase.
Yep.
Or after, like when they reveal,
when they do the thing. Yeah.
Like I was
in the server room.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it would have been nice if they would have played like a rendition. Hell, I would have actually wanted to hear like the classic version. I know it wouldn't have fit in certain parts, but I think it would have been a cool way to close it out.
I forget when, but at some point in the film, they did have, I forget if it was from the 60s or the 80s, but they had the older theme.
They always do the older theme in the movie, and then they have a remix usually for the end credits. So
yeah.
And what Brian De Palma did in the first one is that when Ethan leaps from the back of the train onto the helicopter, that's when you get the fanfare, like the Mission Impossible thing. And then it goes into that crescendo, and then it ends just like the end titles go when Ethan has got his neck just a centimeter away from that broken helicopter blade. And it's like that Brian De Palma just established that is part of the brand of the franchise. And we kind of see a couple of those points peppered throughout the other movie, not always in the climax, but in some point of like twist or what have you. But in the final reckoning, it felt like it was absent from this film. I like Michael Giacchino's like scores because his score was great in this movie, but I'm like, I wanted a little bit more of that because yes, every single opening credits has the classic 60s song redone for this, with the exception of I think the second one. I think
Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, they did their own thing, which is probably why not many people like the second one for a number of reasons.
I mean, the second one is, I think,
melodramatic,
the blackest sheep of the franchise. People are hot or cold on 3. I'm mostly I like 3, but 2 is the one where it's like, if I was being forced, like gun to my head, it doesn't matter that I'm OCD and can't skip films when I'm doing a watch through. You have to skip one of them. Pick Mission Impossible 2 is the one I'm skipping.
Yeah.
Because you at least have Philip Seymour Hoffman in number 3.
And he's great. And I actually, even though it does make it much different than the rest of the franchise, I do actually really like the real, like they took a chance on it, but like the very personal story. Like this is all about just Ethan and his wife.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was a risk, and like half the audience really didn't like that risk. Half of them liked it. Sometimes when you take a chance, that's kind of what happens. And I land on I enjoy it, but like it still falls behind the first film and like 4, 5, and 6 for me easily.
Yeah, I mean, also like Mission Impossible 2 came out 4 years after the first one. Then you had like then we have like an average of like 5 or 6 year breaks between subsequent sequels, with the exception of Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation, which I think was also 4 years, and then Rogue Nation.
That's like 3 or 4 years.
3 years. That was the shortest time. But Fallout had such a huge turnaround. Like it just knocked it out of the park for
Fallout was. Fallout's probably like the best one.
It won bracket battle on Thursday night when we did the elimination.
You did a Mission Impossible bracket battle?
Yeah, well, the reason why number 1
I guess it makes sense you would. Now I'm just mad that I missed it.
Yeah, like the reason the first Mission Impossible can't win, even though it's probably one of the better made films, is because it has a little bit of a weak motivation for why Phelps is doing what he's doing.
No, that's fair.
We don't
I would
get
agree
enough
with
of that. So that's your big gap. That was
my favorite one's Ghost Protocol, though. That movie, I freaking love that movie. Ghost Protocol, Fallout, Rogue Nation. The others, it's not as important. I love them all except for number 2. Number 2 I tolerate.
Did you guys enjoy the classic show Easter egg where Briggs reveals that who he really is? But Briggs, if you don't know your Mission Impossible, Briggs is named after Dan Briggs, who was the first leader of the team in the classic 66 series before he was replaced by Jim Phelps.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I actually understood that reference.
Yep.
I
Because
did
I caught
understand
it
that
from the first
reference.
movie because he was there for like a brief time. I'm like, wait, do they call him Briggs? And then I double checked, like, yep, that's Briggs. So that's
And
you
it
didn't get
gave me hope that, like, in the next, let's say, 4 years, maybe 5 years, on Paramount Plus, I think I brought this up last show even, on Paramount Plus, test out doing like a either not necessarily a reboot, but like an ode to either the 60s or 80s TV series, make it more like that, less spectacle, more like
covert,
more
yeah.
covert spy shit, and like see how that does. You can, because of the genre, you can make it lower budget, bring in some lesser named actors. You know, you don't have to have Ethan Hunt there. Tom's going to be a producer probably
Well,
no matter what.
you know how you
He's
have
going to
Ethan
want his
Hunt-
name attached to it.
No, you know how you have Ethan Hunt there? You have him on the recording telling the new team member to do the mission.
Is it your
His
mission?
voice.
Should you choose to accept it?
Is to do
Oh,
this.
that would be a great, like, simple nod. That
Mhm.
would make me actually so happy. Yeah, I
And it's
didn't
easy for him to
even
do. He
think
can
of that. And
literally-
I've been thinking about this potential series for like the last week straight. And here you just made me more excited, and I don't even know if it's something that's going to happen.
Well, the best part is that Tom Cruise could literally phone it in, but he wouldn't phone it in, but he could actually call in to do the recording.
Right, yeah.
And in between other crazy stunts he's doing and take it off. And I've been like trying to get Paramount to revive Mission Impossible as a TV series since I like got my internship, because they're like, what are the 5 things you think we should be doing? And I'm like, Star Trek, more Star Trek. Star Trek's great. You know, and there was a couple of other original stuff.
Good
and
Trek.
they said Mission
Good Trek.
Impossible. Like you got to go. Like you have to have some sort of companion series for Mission Impossible. Like Tom Cruise does his theater stuff, but you got to have other. There's other IMF teams. We know there are. So
yeah,
like,
it's not just the people doing
not just Ethan
insane,
Hunt. Yeah,
death-defying things like Ethan Hunt. We know Ethan is kind of an outlier, but yeah. Oh man,
Keep the
I would
theme
love
song.
that so much. Yeah. Oh, you
you
Every
have
episode.
that's
do
not
the- Do
arguable.
the clips
Actually,
like they
Paramount owns that theme song, so they don't have to actually pay rights to it. So yeah, they're good.
Perfect.
do. You know where the first place I ever discovered the Mission Impossible theme was?
Hey.
Probably. I was thinking probably a comp parody film,
Wayne's
like
World.
Ace Ventura.
Really?
Wayne's World. It's in
Wayne's
that twice.
Oh
'Cause
yeah,
When Garth goes out to the car, it plays Mission Impossible theme, and then at the end of the movie, when they go to break into the cable access,
and he falls on his keys. He's like, "Wait up, guys!"
Ellen McKee. I say
my-
that all the time.
My first time hearing it was renting the VHS with my dad as a kid, and him introducing me to Mission Impossible. That was my first time hearing that theme.
I am happy that Mission Impossible went out strongly. Folks in
Yeah.
the chat, let us.
I haven't
know
even looked to
what
see
you
how
thought.
it's doing. Is it doing well overall?
It opened at number 2.
Coming in at number 2, but
Probably behind
strong-
Lilo and Stitch. I'm
Yeah, but
guessing.
strong numbers. Like it's good
Almost
numbers.
Wider
200 million.
audience with Lilo and Stitch. So
Oh, of course. I mean, well, here's the other part too: shorter runtime, so more screenings. So I think
Yeah,
like domestically,
it was
over the
long.
weekend. Domestically, I think it did like 64, 65, but international, it pulled in 127. So it's a $200 million holiday weekend opening, which
okay.
is pretty good. So if they can get, 2 more times that, they'll be in, really good, like, traditional profit territory, even though like Paramount themselves, they pre-sold this movie back with Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Mhm.
But they did spend a lot more money, and I think most of that budget is carryover from the expenses of the pandemic and them having to adjust everything for it. So,
Well, because they were still filming it during the pandemic.
yeah, exactly. And then they also had to reworked the script as a result of audience perception of the Part 1.
Yeah,
So
Part
that's an extra
1,
cost. But-
Dead Reckoning. I think that was my biggest issue with it. Like they never build. Especially the last 3, had all felt like they were building upon each other, but they still told complete stories, right?
Sure.
You could see they were going somewhere with it down the line. You wanted to know where that was, but they were never like, this is part 1 of 2, right? Or part 1 of whatever. And Dead Reckoning kind of, I think, landed wrong with audiences. Part of that might also be because the whole entity thing was kind of weak. I think most of the antagonist role was carried on the back of Gabriel there. But it was definitely the weakest of the most recent 4. at the time. This one I felt was a lot better, but it's still like I have to put it behind the three, like that trio. To me, that was like a damn near perfect trio of action films.
Yeah, I will say this as my last Mission Impossible point. The contemporary James Bond films tend to lack compared to the Mission Impossible films. Like, I'll give the last time that I think James Bond beat Mission Impossible was Casino Royale to Mission Impossible 3 in '06. But then you jump ahead to Ghost Protocol doesn't have a James Bond counterpart, but it's like Fallout to Spectre and something else to something else. No Time to Die. Like, they're all, the new ones are just not that great, but Mission Impossible kept going strong. And this is me, the man who's got the Bond novels and the Bond books and the Bond.
You're a Bond mega fan, yeah.
Yeah, my watch is my favorite James Bond piece in my collection. Leighton Swallow, thank you for being a member for a month. We appreciate you. Gotta love that icon though, the killer rabbit.
I love the rabbit paired with the name. It's a double Monty Python and the Holy Grail reference. I love it.
I am a Monty Python fan. I prefer Flying Circus over any of the movies, but I mean, I like everything they do. John Thomas also says he has well done rules, not overpowered limits, and a price to be paid for using magic. Recluse is an order/chaos based system. Imager is visualized based system. See it in the mind and it manifests.
Huh.
Okay, that sounds kind of cool.
Okay. All right.
Force. Is the Force spiritual or magical? I can't decide.
The Force just is.
All right, cool, because I like what it is.
Oh, all right. So dark side, right? And the dark side is, I don't really know where I would land on that with the Force. I think it's probably a mixture of a few things. I think it would probably be a mixture of spiritual, magical, and material science.
I'm just curious because
it's more than one thing.
Yeah. My ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. I'm going to have you guys give me the name of that. Well, I'll just go back and read the other super chat, because I might check it out. If it's on Audible, I will listen to fantasy books. I'm more open-minded than people would think. I'm not blown away by a couple of the big ones that everybody seems to love, but hey, bring it on. I'm always happy to be wrong when I go into something and say, I don't think I'll like this. And then I watch it and go, that was good. Sign me up. I usually will buy at least something based on it, so... That's how I feel about Lord of the Rings these days. When I saw it in theaters back in 2001, I was like, I went to the bargain theater because the next day I was going to see Star Wars, and all I cared about was like, tomorrow there's a new Star Wars. Hopefully this is better than Episode 1. It wasn't. But I've gone back, and I'm like, yeah, Fellowship is much better than everything except the sequels are better than Attack of the Clones. Shit, I forgot the name. Our friend Shrubbles08 has a button request, a message, and an Uncle Ben. Well, of course, on WCBS, you ask and you shall receive. So here is your first button right now.
Message! Message! Message!
And up next, we have Uncle Ben.
I'm gonna kick your ass later!
Wrong button.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
Uncle Ben.
I don't know. That one was funny too. I'll be honest.
Axel Foley?
Yeah. I'll take
me
it.
some Axel Foley.
Do you think they're gonna pull off doing a fifth Netflix Axel Foley Beverly Hills Cop film?
Leave it be. It was
I
so
think so,
well
yeah.
done. I'm one of the
You were
people that-
genuinely like pleasantly surprised and happy with that fourth one,
dude.
Yeah.
Me
I
too.
bought the soundtrack. If they put it out on a physical disc, I'd buy it. They could just make a poster. Anything with Beverly Hills Cop 4 was everything I needed it to be as a fan, because I'm of the mindset with movies, you leave off, like, to me, where the characters are left off is where they kind of live in your mind. Maybe that's why Return of the Jedi worked for me, because it's not as good as the first or the second one, but all the characters have a great resolution. They save the day, they live, and they're off to do as many adventures as you want in your mind. With Beverly Hills Cop 3, it was such a shit movie, and I've gone back to watch it recently, and I still feel the same way. And it just, it ends on such a sour note. And so when I'd watch Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2, I'm like, I'll skip the third one and leave it here. Fourth one comes out, and it just kind of redeems it all for me, and I'm happy with it. And I don't want to see more because you had all the actors still alive.
Yep.
You had all the callbacks. You had all the fun stuff, and you modernized it. I don't think there is not a single Axel Foley story you could tell unless you do some ridiculous Lethal Weapon crossover and some bullshit like that. Which that's when we talk about crossovers in a minute. I believe, and I've been saying it for years, the crossover is the future of entertainment to make $1 billion pictures happen quickly, because it's like a what if scenario. What if this guy met that guy?
It's a compound of IPs. So you're bringing two fandoms together with definitely some overlap, but also not. And that's coming into a point. To your point, I think if you skip Beverly Hills Cop 3 entirely, it makes Beverly Hills Cop Axel F make a lot more sense.
Yeah. I don't ever need to watch 3. The only important part is Inspector Todd dies at the beginning, and they've released the soundtrack for that one to the score. And the score is pretty awesome in certain parts, but overall it's just it's so 90s. Like, they took away the edge of the 80s, the comedy, that synth soundtrack. Axel Foley isn't funny. Like, everything about that movie it sucks the fun out of it. It's very much like The Force Awakens or one of these other franchise killers where you're just like, ugh, why? So
yeah, well, not only that, I mean, if you watch 3 and then you watch 4 and you're thinking, well, wait a minute, is that chick in 3 the mother of his daughter? And if so, how does that work out? Because that movie takes place the year after that kid was born, according to the ID that they show on film. And you're like, I think they're subtly trying to say, please ignore Beverly Hills Cop 3 in that movie.
Yeah, the only thing is they mentioned that you haven't been here in 30 years. And I think that was kind of to make fun of that one. But I wouldn't be surprised. I think that's the smart money move. If you're making a movie, like a long-awaited sequel, and fans hated the previous one, just like Superman
Highlander
Returns.
2 it, man. Just forget about it.
Yeah. There can be only one. To me, Highlander is a one-film franchise. I love the first movie. I don't care about the second or is there a third one?
There is a third one, which has a really hot chick in it with like a fantastic body who, of course, sleeps with him. Is the moment McLeod says, I'm over 400 years old. And women who love older men just completely jump onto that ride. But yeah, number 3 was actually not. It was way better than 2, but it's not number 1. Like, Highlander is great. I'm worried with the Amazon remake with Henry Cavill and all that stuff, because it's going to be a tough sell.
I think it's one of those things where you should just let it go. Not every IP is valuable enough to bring it back. I'm working on a video. They're bringing back a classic sitcom, and I'll tell you the name in the video proper. But I'm like, why? The show sucked 30 years ago. You're going to bring it back now? Everything's just about brand recognition. And I get it from a business standpoint, but make something good.
Well, even from a business standpoint, it's actually showing a very low level of integrity, because if you're an advertiser and your whole deal is, I got to get people to watch this show that's really great, you should be doing everything in your power to get people to watch this brand new show or see this new movie. But they don't do that. They don't know how to do that. They're terrified of trying to, blaze a trail for themselves. They only know how to follow somebody else, and that's basically a massive lack of leadership. And the fact that we don't have that in the advertising industry and the marketing part of the industry is why so many potentially great new IPs never get a good start, because the executives are like, well, how do we sell this? And the marketing team says, well, we can't. But if it was an existing IP, we could sell it, which basically means is like, I'm not going to do any work. I'm going to do the work of the previous generations that figured out how to sell something brand new to an audience. And we're just going to piggyback off them. And hopefully I'll be able to keep my stupid, worthless job for another couple of years before people realize that nobody in marketing and advertising these days knows anything about what they're doing, and they should all be fired. And I would actually just give it to AI, because they're not creative, but they'll at least try. Mm-hmm. As opposed to marketing today, which just says, no, turn it into an IP or use an existing IP. Sorry.
It's tiresome, because there's a monotony to how muddled everything is. So
yeah.
Shout out to Sentai Ranger Donnie. Yes, Power Rangers was a great part of my childhood. Probably I don't want to say the happiest, but it's definitely a great story that I'll tell one day in comic book form. Like,
I've got some great memories of my days when I was a kid, single digits up through maybe 10 years old,
I was
loving Mighty
I was a
Morphin.
season 1 kid. Like, take it back. I was like the first when they were Mighty Morphin. That was it. I was only about that version as a kid, but man, I was about it where I had this White Ranger costume I would wear all the time. Like,
Oh, nice.
yeah, dude, it was Morphin time. I had the
Dude, I
gloves
never
that
had
made
any
sounds.
costumes or anything like that. I remember begging my parents to get me like a Green Ranger Halloween costume, and they never did. But I did have the toys.
I had a
The
couple of
flip
the
head
toys.
ones.
I had the gloves, and my dad took my old hockey helmet and he put the rubber Red Ranger mask over top of it. And it worked out pretty well.
God, that was just a great time. Like, I remember because it was right before I was going to kindergarten, so it was that age where all I had to do was just play with toys or hang out and do stuff. And Power Rangers was cool because my mom taped it off TV, so I had tons of episodes to watch. I had the toys. I had the coloring books. I used to draw in those. If you go follow me on Instagram, folks, I have a drawing I did from 1994 of the Red and the Blue Ranger. I've gotten a little better, which I'm thankful to say, but it's a lot of fun to just see where I was and just to see what I was into. And to our friend Donnie, maybe next week when I'm back on camera, I went on the Ollie's road trip, at least the first leg of it, and I'm exhausted, so I'm not on camera tonight. But there is a Power Ranger shelf in here that is probably the most organized and well curated part of the wall of collectibles for now. It's just a good time. So,
If I'm not mistaken, that's over your left shoulder, isn't it?
you are correct, sir.
All
Over
right.
my right shoulder is the Beverly Hills Cop
Jeez, I
shelf.
don't remember that. I'm a visual person. I don't remember that.
I think what I'll start doing when I don't want to be on camera is I'll just set up another camera that's just the shelf, and so you're hearing me talk on the camera and the microphone, and it's all
No, what,
the right.
what
quality.
you need to do is you need to pick a different figure each time that is the focus.
Oh God, I could do this for 10 more years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you got plenty of content to work with.
Yeah, if you're a member and a patron, I am going to go through the collection for you guys. That is the number one thing you request. Everyone's like, I want to see what you have. The reason I haven't done that stuff is what is accessible to me currently is probably only 20% of the shit I own. That's not an exaggeration. Like, I don't have my childhood Star Wars toys here. I don't have tons of that stuff. And that's the stuff you guys would want to see. I only have the first couple Power Rangers stuff. I don't have any of the Automorph and Flip Heads. I don't have my command center here. I just don't have space for it currently. But when I get my house, I will make a whole room for the collectibles section, and we'll do that after we move, but we'll do it before I move too. So, you know what? Are we all caught up on the super chats and everything?
Thank
you,
we
folks, for being so supportive, guys. We appreciate that. It keeps us going here on WCPS. But our friend TLJ Screwjob has a question that was already going to be part of tonight's show. What are your guys' thoughts on the casting for Harry, Ron, and Hermione? Andrew, since you are the biggest Harry Potter fan I know, would you please?
I'm the
take it away
second
first?
biggest Harry Potter fan. Mary is bigger than me.
I've met Mary. I don't think she's any taller than you.
Well, that's definitely true. She comes up to about here on me. It's quite funny and adorable, but in terms of scope and knowledge of the franchise, I do still put her above myself, though I consider myself pretty well versed and pretty knowledgeable over most people, certainly in this sphere. I'm actually really happy with this casting and genuinely shocked because after the circus that was the Snape casting, anything and everything was basically on the table. Right, you're going to take a character whom Harry actively has disdain for, and who has disdain for him. You're going to take a character like that where there's already some racial connotations and undertones, but that racial stuff is meant to literally just be magic versus non-magic people, not skin tone. Skin tone's not meant to have anything to do with it, but you already flipped that, right? And so they really shot themselves in the foot with that. That's of all the characters they could have race swapped. I'm against race swaps in general, but of all the ones they could have done, they chose the absolute worst one to possibly do. And so after that, I was like, well, clearly they're stupid. So what are they going to do next? We're just going to race swap all the Weasleys. What Harry's going to be whatever. Hermione. I mean, they already had a black girl cast in the stage play, which most Harry Potter fans, reasonably with their heads screwed on straight, do not consider canon because Cursed Child is awful. We were all expecting, any of us that have our heads screwed on right, we were like, all right, well, they swapped Snape. We're definitely getting Black Hermione at this point, right? Which is going to make it even more awkward because then you're having Draco, the super pale white, blonde, blue-eyed boy, gray blue eyes, but him calling Hermione a mudblood, so that's going to get even more awkward. You're going to have Bellatrix Lestrange carving magically the word mudblood into Hermione's arm in the final book or final season in the case of the series. It's going to be really uncomfortable and more racially awkward than it was actually intended to be. And then they come out with this. I'm like, wait, what? Ron's redhead? Like super redhead. Like that's even more redhead than Rupert Grint. Not by much, but it's still more. Like it's like, wow, that is red hair. That is some ginger ass hair right there. And then I'm looking at Harry. I'm like, all right, he's got the right colored hair. He's pale as heck. It's hard to tell if his eyes are green. His eyes are supposed to be green. They tried giving Daniel Radcliffe contacts in the first film. He was allergic to them, had bad reactions, so they just went with blue eyes, which always made the remarks about, oh, you have your mother's eyes, and all the actresses that they had play Harry's mother, Lily, in the films had brown eyes. It's like, what are you talking about? He has mother's eyes are completely different color. Stupid. Hermione, I'm like, okay, there are some key things. Yes, okay. Elephant in the room, she has slightly tan skin. However, here are the important things that are being missed. And something that was actually acknowledged by J.K. Rowling during the casting of the original films. She said herself when she saw the screen test for Hermione Granger from Emma Watson, she's like, she's too pretty. Like even as a little girl, obviously people grow up and they grow into themselves. And Emma Watson, even though she's a bit of a nut now, like she's still very pretty. Like she could even tell then, she was like, she's too pretty. Hermione Granger is supposed to be, up until basically the final book or final two, she's supposed to kind of be a little awkward looking. Yeah, she's kind of the ugly duckling that eventually grows into herself. She's supposed to have oversized front teeth. She's supposed to have kind of frizzy, less than super well kempt hair. And she's supposed to be just kind of Harry ends. Here's the thing: a lot of people that only watched the movies and didn't read the books, will be like, "Well, why didn't Harry end up with Hermione?" And they're thinking the main character should end up with the pretty one, right? And yes, Emma Watson was the pretty one in the films. In the books, Ginny was the hot one, Ron's sister. Ginny was the one everybody wanted as their girl, and Harry actually ended up with the hot one, whereas Hermione was like the kind of awkward for the most part, but ended up pretty eventually when she grew into herself. I think that like this casting is genuinely surprising. They still really futzed up with the Snape stuff. Like that doesn't go away, but I will take things point by point. And at least in terms of the Golden Trio, I think this was a really good casting. If obviously the caveat being, okay, are they good child actors? If they're better child actors than the film trio was, which honestly only Emma Watson was halfway decent for the first few. Eventually they all got better, but like for the first few, it was kind of rough. If these child actors are much stronger and the script is on point, then I think this was a really, really good casting for the Golden Trio. And it doesn't take away from the fact they've race swapped Snape, which is like the worst possible choice you could have done in terms of race swapping a character. You could have race swapped Dumbledore and it would have been less bad. Still would have been bad, but it wouldn't have been as bad as race swapping Snape. But I'm happy with this casting, honestly. From what I am seeing, I'm happy. Now it's like, all right, like let's get them on camera, let's get them on set, let's get them in the costumes. Can they actually play the part? That's the next step. But just that face value from my knowledge with the books and my love of the books over the films, I'm okay with this. I'm happy with this.
I saw you posted on Twitter. I posted on Twitter too. I did see an interesting couple of comments. It was a shared sentiment from people like Trace XL, our friend Aaron Sparrow, and such. Is they hope that people don't go after these actors, which I don't ever want that to happen, especially because they're kids. But
They're just little kids, yeah.
Yeah. I'm so out of the loop with Harry Potter, even though I'm of the right age. I was off doing my own thing, and 2001 is when it came out to the theaters. I got the GameCube the weekend that Harry Potter came out, so I'm living in the galaxy far, far away playing Rogue Squadron while everyone's geeking out about Hogwarts. So I've always been adjacent to this, and I am not going to watch this show. Full transparency, but I'm happy to hear that as a big fan, that you're optimistic about what's coming, because I would
have been the first, probably second behind Mary. I would have been, aside from that, I would have been the first to say, like, this is a bad casting. This is not the correct move. This is like, all right, you already shot yourself in the left foot with actually no. You shot yourself in the face with the Snape casting, and now you just decided to, cut your nose off and on top of that. But no, I'm happy with it.
Do you think this is going to become the definitive version of Harry Potter for a generation, or do you think those other movies will be kind of like a classic that they'll still go back to and say, well, this show's good, but this version of these movies is, what I like?
So that's, and Script can probably speak to this as well, because he's seen multiple iterations of different franchises as well. I think that's kind of an inevitability. Whether it's more accurate or less accurate on any one level, and the thing is, it could be that the Snape thing is the only actual glaring issue, and they get everything else right. That doesn't remove the glaring issue, but they could make the actual storytelling, the pacing, having all the context and the side stories and backstories and things that actually add important context to the entirety of the narrative. They could have that there and they could nail it. It doesn't matter any of that, because it is actually, anytime you do a remake or a reboot, it does become generational at that point. And whatever that most recent one is, whatever the young, like, target audience generation is, that's the one they're going to most associate with most of the time. You'll have exceptions, but most of the time, whatever version of a character or a story comes out for a generation, that's the one that becomes definitive for them. And as comic book fans, I think all here, we can speak to this for sure, where, we see these versions of characters come out in the films, the live action stuff. And, those become the definitive versions of some of these characters for people, that did grow up reading the comics, but they saw the MCU films, and therefore that's their definitive version. Well, it's the only version that so yeah, by default, right? That's your definitive version. I don't know. I'm not going to get ahead of myself and say that this will be, in general, the definitive adaptation, because the thing is, while visually the films got a lot of things right, they also got a lot of things wrong. A lot of the adult staff members for Hogwarts were actually far too old. A lot of the characters were off in terms of how they looked. Some of them were spot on. Like Harry, Daniel Radcliffe, aside from the eye color, was spot on. Hermione Granger, aside from the fact that she was a little too pretty, was pretty spot on within the kind of like range that we can gauge from the book descriptions. Ron was a little too stocky. Ron is actually supposed to be tall and lanky. The twins, his brothers, were tall and lanky in the films, when actually in the books they're more short and stocky. Ironically enough, they swap them, but I love the Phelps twins. I think they're hilarious. It's tough to say. I just hope that, as bad as that was for them to do the Snape swap, I do hope that they genuinely nailed everything else, and that more people will have the intellectual honesty to approach it from two angles, and allowing two things to be true at once, where that was a horrible decision You should not have done that swap. Not only is it inaccurate to the character from what we know of the character through the source material, but on top of that, it adds a lot of really bad negative connotations to the storytelling and to the dialogue that were never intended to be there. And it makes it really uncomfortable. However, you can have that be true, but also you can say, all right, but they nailed this casting and this casting and this casting and this casting and the pacing here and the story here, and they added all the story context and they told the stories more accurate to the books than the films did. Which, to be fair, I mean, if they're doing full seasons for each book, yeah, you better tell the stories more accurate than the films did, because you have a lot more time to do so, and you have the time to add in and layer in all of the things that make the stories more fleshed out and add important context. There are a lot of things in the films that, as a book reader, if you've read the books, that feel like they jump over major things. And a lot of characterization is off. Hermione in the movies is not Hermione in the books at all. She's actually very perfect in the films. Like, she doesn't really have much in the way of flaws, aside from kind of being a know-it-all. Like, at most, like, she's way more flawed in the books. She has an actual character arc in the books where she goes from being kind of an insufferable know-it-all to being a lot more endearing. Whereas in the movies, she was just kind of always like, hey, it's pretty perfect Princess Hermione. And on the opposite end, Harry in the movies is very buttoned up and sanitized. In the books, Harry's pretty sassy. Like, a lot of the story deals with Harry having internal dialogue or internal monologue where he's like in his head sassing back at characters or giving the reader his thoughts on characters and thoughts on events. And a lot of them are like, man, Harry's kind of going off right now. He's being a bit of a prick. But you understand why in the context of what's going on. You didn't get any of that in the movies. Harry's kind of just perfect and buttoned up in the movies. He doesn't have much in the way of flaws.
Now let me
I'm
ask you a
hoping they
question.
fix all that in the series.
Let me ask you, to bounce off my former question, because there's such a strong presence at Universal theme parks around the world of that version of Harry Potter.
Mhm.
You think they'll ever update the theme park to match this show, or do you think money will prevent that from happening? Therefore, people will still associate Harry Potter with that, or is that stuff from the theme park kind of just, it can cross over and it doesn't really matter because they got the world of Harry Potter correct?
You know what? I think I'm going to partially. I'll give my thoughts, but then I'll defer over to script, because I think that might actually end up being a matter of which order of operations they want to take. If they really want to just like do the whole like synchronicity thing that Marvel tries to sometimes do with their comic books and the movies, retroactively, where, all right, we want to really push this new series, so we're going to revamp some of the stuff. And a lot of things I would imagine they wouldn't have to do anything to at the parks. But in terms of some of the marketing, in terms of maybe imagery and characters, using the new cast from the HBO show, maybe if they want to try and like do an extra push for that, because this is like one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive show of all time. It's looking like, based on what I'm seeing and reading. Or if they want to do kind of like a wait and see thing where it's like, okay, what are fans more receptive to, right? Are they still holding on to the films, or are they really latching on to this? I'm not quite certain of which way that's going to go. Script, what do you think is more likely? Being a little bit more of an industry insider, how that might pan out and play out.
Well, I think as it pertains to specifically Harry Potter, they're going to make that kid look as close to Daniel Radcliffe as humanly possible. And however he's depicted in the Universal Studios thing, there'll definitely be enough overlap where people will be able to instantly recognize, oh yeah, that's the Harry Potter kid. With Hermione, it's going to be a little bit trickier. Obviously, I think I haven't seen any of the other cast for Universal Studios, so I have no idea what version of Hermione they're going for. Are they going more with an Emma Watson type, or are they going more with something else? I don't know. But usually, in this case, and this goes back to when Universal, because Universal still has some Marvel stuff with their theme park. They licensed the rights as they were as their images were at the time of the deal being made. So with the Universal parks and the contract that they had with Harry Potter World, which has been around for a few years now, it's whatever the most common recognizable form of that license is will be what will be what is used at the parks until that license goes up and they have to renegotiate, or until they get permission from Warner Brothers to incorporate any new aspects of what they developed with their TV show that they want to add into the Universal Park. Because again, they're rival studios. They just have the license for Harry Potter World. But Warner Brothers, by way, has the license for all media of it. And of course, J.K. Rowling owns the property outright. So I don't think J.K. has much final say in regards to changes from what was already agreed to previously at Universal Studios. Because I know that she basically said, this is how this world works. This is what you do it. And once that contract was made and defined, that's what they stick to. And
I don't think she has much in the way of call or say over the castings.
Right. Like, well, they wouldn't waste her time with park castings at that point. They would say, these are the profiles that you need to cast for as characters in the park. Outside of that, they're not going to be like sending her headshots, every season of like, who's the new Harry Potter?
Like, she was involved a little bit more with the castings for the films.
Of course.
At least like that initial film.
Thing.
Yeah. But yeah, at this point, I don't think she has any say, even beyond the parks. I mean, even in the TV series, I don't know how much involvement she really had in the castings of that. I know that her involvement for sure deals with adherence to the overall plot and story of the adaptation as it pertains to, being in line with the books. But I don't know how much involvement she actually has in the castings. That hasn't been really relayed to the public that I'm aware of.
Yeah, well, it really comes down to, like, all I know from the people that I know that are somewhat connected to this is that they consult on her frequently with regards to what they're doing in pre-production and what they're doing with casting. And she makes time for those points. But I don't know if she coordinates with the writer's room. I don't know if she's coordinating with any of the directors of the episodes for the series or anyone else on the production side. She, as far as I can tell, she has a producer in name only credit, which means that she doesn't really have to get her hands dirty with the actual production part of the show. So it's her name because it's her IP. So we'll find out as we get closer to actual filming. And the other part too is she's been pretty close to the chest on interviews about the show. So I don't think I've seen any recent interviews of her talking about the show or any of the plans or what have you. So that's been kind of pretty buttoned up. And I think
the only remarks that I can recall, from her regarding the show were when it was first announced, and she remarked on being involved in terms of making it a more accurate adaptation to her books and being excited at the prospect of that. And then with the casting of what's his face, Papo, what the hell's his last name?
Papa New
for
Guinea?
Snape. Yeah, short, not New Guinea. No,
Papa New Guinea.
It's funny. That guy for Snape. And people were coming at her and tagging her and blah, 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 and all this. And she was like, look, I don't have the power to can anyone from the show. And it wasn't even regarding like him being black. It was more regarding like him having a different stance from her on the thing in the UK regarding, the classification of what is a woman. And he had the opposite stance from her. And she just made the remark of, I don't have the power to can anyone from the show, and I wouldn't can someone just because they disagreed with me on something. And then aside from that, today, after the announcement of the casting of the Golden Trio, for those of you who don't know, Golden Trio is in the fandom what Harry, Ron, and Hermione are known as. She said all three of these were wonderful. I couldn't be happier. Like that's that. I think those three statements are the only things I can recall her remarking on the show of.
Well, I'm glad that we're talking about it with people that are optimistic, because not everything's going to suck. Like, if you would have told me that 2025 would be a pretty solid year for film and that I've liked more than I've disliked, 2023 me would have said, you're full of shit. But times have changed, and I think a lot of places just need to make money. So they're going to fall back on what works, and they're not going to give us crap. Hopefully. I'm staying super optimistic here. But you know what, Andrew? For you and Mary and all the other Harry potheads out there, I hope you guys enjoy your show. I hope it meets all the metrics that you want. And I hope it's treated better than Star Wars, because we're still screwed over here on Star
Subterranean bar.
No, it's Mos Eisley Cantina Bar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's worse. That's worse.
You'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. Just watch yourself. We must be cautious.
There it is.
See, I told you I know that movie.
I know you do.
Yeah, I was out at Ollie's, around the state of Ohio, brand new ones, and I picked up a hardback comic book edition of Star Wars, the comic book special edition. And I didn't realize what I was buying until I opened the wrapper, and it's literally a comic book version of the special edition. So Greedo shoots first in this comic book, and I'm like, fuck, I'll never read this again.
Oh, gosh.
At least the cover art's beautiful, by Dave Dorman.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about another crossover. Since I jokingly said crossovers are the future of entertainment, today they've announced a crossover that hell froze over. No. Batman
well,
versus
maybe.
Deadpool. Batman versus Deadpool is happening. And folks, if you've been a longtime comic book reader, or you at least know your history, you'll know that Marvel and DC have crossed over multiple times. This is not a new phenomenon. It started back in
it's just the first time in a while.
1975 with Superman Spider-Man, and it was great. It's a great looking book, beautiful artwork. Ross Andrew and about 1 million other artists clean it up to make it really nice. Then in the 90s, we had the Amalgam Universe, and we've had multiple crossovers. There's Avengers, Justice League, there's Teen Titans, X-Men. All these books have happened. They're pretty good. I highly recommend you check them out. But today they announced that it's Deadpool versus Batman, and Batman versus Deadpool, which means Batman versus Deadpool will be published by DC, and Deadpool versus Batman will be published by Marvel. I don't know if those are completely different books or it's a joke. But long story short, this news broke. People have been talking about it. And as a comic book creator, I am fine with this idea. I think it's a little weird that it's Deadpool versus Batman, but this might show you that Deadpool is Marvel's most popular character on paper right now. Not even the mighty Spider-Man.
Which is interesting because none of Deadpool's books are touching at least one of Spider-Man's books right now. Ultimate Spider-Man clears it. Even if, I guess technically, even if you want to look at the frequency with which Amazing Spider-Man, which is not a good book right now outside of Pepe Larraz's art, which is amazing. The story is not.
I'm still buying it, sadly.
The art really is beautiful. Pepe Larraz understands how to make these panels dynamic. He understands Peter's awkwardness. He understands Spidey's movements. The story is just bleh, which is most Amazing Spider-Man comics in the last decade, honestly, if not decade and a half.
I would say you're being a little generous. I'd say 2013.
Yeah, I might be. But to me, it's like, I don't know, I would have more preferred them do Spider-Man. There might be a specific reason why they don't want to put Spidey against Batman. And I'm not quite certain what that would be.
What happened in 94.
Oh, yeah. Well, you also have, there's a really, maybe famous is overselling it, but there's a pretty iconic Michael Turner piece of Spider-Man versus Batman that he did for Wizard Magazine back in the late 90s or early 2000s. that's pretty awesome, and it made me be like, oh man, I want to see those two go fight.
Why does Batman have a left tit?
A left tit.
Take a
Oh,
look
you
at
mean
the chest goes right into the bicep.
yeah, it would come kind of cross over closer.
Like
yeah, you're right.
that chest, the bicep should be closer to the chest, literally.
Mhm.
And also some of the lines on the inside of the cape don't make sense. But I mean, aside from that, it's a great silhouette image of these two guys going at it. But yeah, I'm just looking at like, oh god, that looks weird. Maybe the anchor screwed up on the pencil from the pencils, or I don't know what's going on. But I'm looking at the Batman's left boob. It's like, why is that melding right into his bicep? And I can see where his
So,
shoulder is. But
is
yeah,
the subtitle of this book "My Left Boob: A Batman Story"?
could be.
The only thing I noticed about this is, Batman now wears an armor colored bat on his chest, which, I mean, that's fine. I don't dislike
He's done that
it.
before. Yeah.
I just prefer like the yellow emblem or the big black bat. Like,
Yeah.
you don't really need to alter Batman's costume every 5 years. That's not going to move the sales.
But they do.
But they do. And also, did Deadpool cut off the other ear on Batman's cowl? I guess too, because by that angle of the head, you should be able to see the other ear.
You should at least be able to see just the tip.
I'm not a good artist, but
it's a
I'm
shorter bat ear,
yeah,
and I tend to prefer the longer bat ears personally. But yeah, you should be able to see just a teeny bit of it poking out there. Overall, I actually still like the piece, but the concept of the crossover is, I think, what's more interesting to talk about, and maybe what's something that the industry is a little too overly reliant on.
I do like the utility belt a lot. That's a good utility belt.
Oh yeah, Batman's utility belt looks amazing there.
I'm interested. I mean, to support my local comic book shop, I will probably pick this up, but I'm not like, I don't know how to describe it. I'm morbidly curious. I want to see what the story is. Deadpool has never been my go-to DC or Marvel character. Excuse me. He annoys me, and I get that's supposed to be the point, but he annoys me to a point where I'm just like, no, I don't like Deadpool. I didn't like Deadpool until the first movie came out, and I don't really.
Same. I
like
enjoyed
Deadpool
seeing the
anymore.
first movie in the theater with my dad because we were both laughing our asses off. And outside of that, I don't really like Deadpool.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's okay. He's got a gimmick to him. My first roommate had a ton, like I think the entire first run of Deadpool comics, and he praised him. I will say I am kind of chuckling at the broken batarang sticking out of.
I was literally you took the words right out of my mouth. I was looking at that. And I was literally about to say, I kind of appreciate the batarang that's like just sticking out of Wade's head there. That is kind of funny.
I think this is a well thought out piece. I like the Super Soaker and the Rubber Chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wish. I hope this does well. Oh wait, is that shark repellent bat spray? No, it just says
bat repellent bat spray.
Yeah,
that's a good gag. Okay,
see, that's
a good gag.
Somebody was thinking there. My issue
probably
with this,
Dan Mora.
It's honestly possible. Dan Mora freaking loves comic book characters. He loves superheroes, and he's one of the best like house style artists today, working in the mainstream. He's really good. However, my issue that I see with this crossover conceptually is really more of a matter of what it speaks to the state of the industry currently, and this is a state that the industry has locked itself into, and that's they're always chasing the next big event. They're always chasing a crossover. And though on paper, I'm actually happy to see another DC and Marvel crossover for the first time in how many years? Decade and a half? Something like that. When was the last
More.
DC Marvel crossover?
Was it Avengers Justice League with George Perez?
Yeah, I think that might have been it. That's closer to 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
So that's cool because that shows to me, hey, let's like people like when we do this, maybe let's work together and do this. However, for those who have followed comics closely enough over the last, we'll say 2.5, 3 decades, there's been an increase in the frequency and quantity of crossover events. And it's to the detriment of the individual books, in my opinion, because as somebody who reads books, new releases each week, I hit up my LCS on my way home from the office on Wednesdays every single week. It always feels like they're trying to move towards the next line-wide event, right? Where you're gonna have to get all these tie-ins and all this and all that. And that's okay when you're doing that sometimes, but when it feels like you're doing that, biannually or even quarterly sometimes, some years it's felt like it's quarterly, you miss out and you lose a lot of the individual character storytelling that you're doing. And when you do that, you're now also losing the investment and reason for investment in those individual character titles, because you're really just telling people this title is literally just to build towards the next line-wide event. And it's become more and more egregious at DC and Marvel in recent years. And it's frustrating because it's like, yeah, I like me a big old line-wide crossover. That's fun, right? And that sells books. That's good. It can make for a great animated adaptation. That's awesome. Cool, fun. But if you're doing it so frequently where you end up missing out on more long-form storytelling. I miss more long-form storytelling in comic books where you have a writer on a title and they're on it for like 100 issues, and with the caveat being they actually have 100+ issues worth of good storytelling to tell on that title, because not all writers do, even good ones. It becomes annoying because you're losing out. You're trading long-form storytelling for individual characters and developing those characters and their worlds, their storytelling, for just this big line-wide event that's spectacle. It's almost always flash over substance. Most of the stuff that ends up happening winds up being something that's overwritten in the next crossover event, right? And so it's like, well, nothing matters. Why do I care? You're telling me that the individual stories don't care because they're just building towards the event. And then you tell me that event doesn't matter because you just overwrote the stuff that happened then with the next event. It's like when you have a new president come in and they just have an executive order that overwrites crap from the last one. It's like, well, that was useless.
Yeah, I am in a weird place with crossovers versus single stories. Like, I'll admit it, I don't hate Avengers versus X-Men. It's not my favorite book, but that one secondary series they did where it was the verses where every issue was just a battle, I thought that was fun. Like Gambit versus so-and-so, or Captain America versus Cyclops, I think. Like, I enjoyed that kind of stuff for fun, digestible, quick reads. But, I don't think the comic book industry has to die. I think it's people that work there need to be told by an editorial staff, even above the editorial staff at the company,
shape up or get out.
Shape up or get out. And actually, I'd say shape up or shut up. Honestly, like, I don't mean to be rude to these people, because I guess technically they're my, contemporaries or whatever you would call it, but I don't really care about their story, like them and their stories. Like, tell a story that, like, if you're working on Spider-Man, it's your job and your duty to tell a story that's for Spider-Man, not, well, the guy at the gym was a dick, let me tell a story about let me stick it to him in this tale. Like, we gotta stop that stuff. And I do think this book is a step in that direction, where it's Deadpool and Batman, and it's just like it's like Deadpool Wolverine. It's just comic book popcorn fun schlock. It's gonna be an event to sell books, hopefully, and get other things moving. So I'm hoping that we get more thought out crossovers, if we're going to get them. Like, quick idea off the top of your head, guys. What are some crossovers you'd like to see?
None.
None? That's fair.
I mean, sometimes there's some things that could be interesting, but I mean, it's fleeting. That's the reality of it. A crossover is fleeting if you can't, like,
it gets forgotten canonically too immediately.
Yeah. like right now, in my opinion, the best one was Freddy versus Jason.
That's a good one.
And the fact that they tried diligently to continue doing those and even incorporating Bruce Campbell's Ash from Evil Dead, but unsuccessfully. So, but horror is usually the best place where you can actually get away with crossovers because not only are they tightly tied by genre, but the thing is that they're open for the absurdity of it because horror films are absurd. Like,
Oh yeah,
so many of those times, those antagonists should not be able to achieve what they achieve. They do so because of either supernatural powers or the idiocy of the protagonists. But crossovers for that works. Other parts here, I mean, every character, and this was even a complex issue in the early days of Detective Comics, and to a lesser extent in Marvel, but mostly in Detective Comics, where they had to reconcile, like, can Superman really like interact with all the other characters that we've acquired over the past couple of years? Should he interact? His world is relatively different than compared to Batman, but putting them together would be really great. And because we do own both of IPs, they technically are in the same universe. Should we be able to do that? Can people accept that? And, you know, when that was done in The World's Finest, it had a little bit of a mixed review. I mean, not on a huge broad scope, but there were some people that were skeptic to it. And then the vast majority of kids loved it because they got to see two of some of their favorite superheroes together. And but the thing is, even by today's standards, like Batman's world of Gotham is very different from Superman's world of Metropolis. But they found a way to make that work. And I think the only reason that type of relationship has worked is because the owners of the IP allow it to work. They found a way to evolve it and reconcile it. But when you're dealing with crossovers, you're dealing with two separate companies with two separate universes negotiating a one-time story that might do gangbusters. And if it does do gangbusters, you then have to realize that you might be, you know, now married to this company for this particular crossover franchise to continue because it's a moneymaker. And that causes further complications as well, because if there's any new character that is invented in that crossover, who owns the character, right? Because what are the contractors between the writers and artists involved in the comic book series or the crossover series itself? And how do those rights get evenly and appropriately shared among all the entities involved? It's really a nightmare. And it's a byproduct of basically the fact that every writer or every creative team or what have you that creates a character creates a world that comes with that character as a byproduct. And then that world ends up being a complicated setting when you have to integrate it into a crossover. So which world do they end up on? Do they bounce between worlds? Do they end up into a third world, like our real world or what have you? All complicated questions that, you know, are fun to address in the moment, but can lead to a lot of issues with your audience based on how convoluted it ends up having to be in order for a story to be told and told well. So I'm if they can be avoided, I'm for it, because sometimes the universe that is made by way of these characters is exactly what it needs to be for those characters, and you don't need to necessarily spice it up with another IP. You can spice it up by making a new character that maybe shares some of the traits of the crossover IP you want to integrate, so that you can explore those potential stories without compromising the integrity of your own IP.
I'm gonna give one. I was listening to what you were saying, and I agree. And I like the idea of especially creating something new. But here's a ridiculous one: Japanese Spider-Man meets the Power Rangers. So it's already
They both have
Sentai
robots,
and Sentai.
yeah.
I just want to see Leopardon fight alongside the Megazord to battle, like, I have no clue, Galactus. Nah, he's too powerful. But something like that craziness would be fun.
Sure. I mean, that's why what you got, Bat in the Sun. They do a bunch of those like superhero crossover fights.
Oh yeah, those are solid. I like that, and Death Battle were a lot of fun.
Yeah, like those fights are good. Don't ever watch their actual like attempt at making a short film though. Those are pretty derivative. Great costumes, decent cast, and decent looking cast, but oh man, their latest one with like Batman, Joker, and they got Michael Madsen to play Bullock, and that poor actor, he looks more like an out of work furnace repairman than he does a grizzly type of lazy cop.
That might be like one of the most like brutal burns I've heard out of you.
I mean, because I like Mega
hell?
Match a lot, but they just didn't do any. Like, yeah. Like, if I have to see another Batman fan film where Joker talks about how he can't take off his face because we all wear masks and BS like that, I'm just like Jeff with the Back to the Future stuff. I'm just gonna have to walk away.
Yeah, dude, and I don't want to take away anyone's fun or creative outlets. Like, I don't want that to go away.
Right.
But if you're making that, like, stop making the same shit that has been made 10 times over. Well, I want to do my spit. Like, that's why I can't get into Batman. And I know I grew up with Batman, and I like a very specific version of it. But, like, there's this odd internet version of Batman where it's just regurgitating the same points, like, oh, the mask, and, like, I can't take it off. The shit you just said script.
They're regurgitating The Dark Knight is what they're doing.
Yeah.
They are. And The Dark Knight was great. And it's still good, but it's been 17 years. Let the shit go. Like,
Let me put
Warner
it this
Brothers,
way:
let it go.
when I was in college and I was taking a TV and film acting course, one of the students, when we were asked to take a monologue or dialogue scene, we could grab a partner if we wanted from either TV, film, or theater, and perform that. I cannot tell you the number of people who wanted to reenact Heath Ledger's Joker scene, the whole, well, no, I got these scars stuff.
Adding the scars too. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, bro, what are you doing? And this was in 2012, I want to say, was when I was taking those courses.
Yeah.
And so people were like super hot on that. It's like, man, like,
he reinvented the Joker. We've got to then copy that. It's
like,
no.
oh my gosh, yeah, let's all seal clap right now for you. You're doing something super groundbreaking. Like, come on, man. Like, try something else. Bring something else back. And so I was the deliberate schmo who, in my theater class, decided to instead do Joker's monologue from Killing Joke. But I did it in more of a voice of like Troy Baker's Joker from Arkham Origins.
Oh yeah.
So I took what was written for a very specific era that it hadn't yet been, but it was going to, I think, in the next year or two, be adapted for animation. And you had freaking why is
Mark
his name
Hamill?
blanking? Mark Hamill. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name for those second there. The Mark Hamill then doing the animated adaptation of that. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to take that, but I'm going to lean more into the actual full script that was in the comic, but I'm going to do the like slightly darker, but not like Heath Ledger dark version of the Joker that Troy Baker did in Arkham Origins. Because Arkham Origins, Troy Baker took Mark Hamill's and he was like, nobody's going to ever be Mark Hamill other than Mark Hamill, which was like super whimsy. I'm going to take that. I'm going to dial it over this way just a little bit. I'm going to make it my own. And so I was like, I like that. I'm going to do a twist on that. And people wound up liking that more rather than the people who were just like trying to be Heath Ledger because edgy, I guess.
It's beyond edgy. It's just new and topical, and people were trying to. It was part of the zeitgeist, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be involved.
The performance was
popular.
incredible, right?
But I'm over it. Honestly, it was good when it came out, and I don't dislike it. But I always preferred Jack Nicholson.
I will never
to be that.
I like Cesar Romero.
Same.
I will never see Heath Ledger's Joker as the Joker. I will see that as a fantastic performance by a very skilled actor. But I'm with you. I like Jack Nicholson's better.
There's something
he's more the Joker
and tongue-in-cheeky about him.
Yeah, if you're just more of just okay, so you're kind of cookie cutter, psychotic murderer. All right.
Well, the other part too is Jack Nicholson's Joker actually did stuff like directly where Heath Ledger's Joker, things happened and then they associated with what he did, but it was always off screen. Like the closest thing he did was like throw the Rachel out of the window and then blow up the Batmobile with a bazooka. But like, poisoning the commissioner with acid, well, he clearly didn't do that. Someone did that on his behalf. He's like a mob boss, just a more elaborate, creative mob boss. But Jack Nicholson's Joker, he goes out in public with a bunch of mimes and he throws a feather quill into the neck of a mob boss right in the middle of downtown. Like, that's Joker. Unashamed, showing that he's the one that did that. Heck, he electrocutes the other mob boss that wanted to refuse joining into his new corporation from as an outfit. And then of course he poisons everybody in downtown Gotham. Like, he's the one that triggers the button. Like, he pushes the button and all those things happen. It's like when you see your villain do stuff of their own accord, and it's not just like behind the shadows and then speculation and exposition. It's a lot more fun. It's also why I appreciate like Cesar Romero's Joker when he was poisoning Gotham's water supply with what looked like nerds, which is a candy form we have up here in Canada.
No, we have those down here too.
Oh yeah, I figured.
Delicious.
We do have those.
Your
here.
Smarties are different than our Smarties. That's why.
Are they?
Yeah, like our Smarties are actually candy coated chocolate, and then your Smarties are like powdery
crap,
powdery things, which we call rockets up here.
How about that?
They're fizzy. But yeah, like anyway, like when Cesar Romero is doing that stuff, or when he squirts like paint on Batman's cowl and gets his goons to come in there, or he poisons a bottle of champagne so that when Batman uses it to christen a boat, the poison gas will kill him. Like, we see him do it, and I like the fact that he gets involved. And also Jack Nicholson and Cesar Romero, along with Mark Hamill, have like the most recognizable sinister Joker laughs there. Try to impersonate Heath Ledger's Joker laugh. It's like, like,
It's like that was the moment where I was like, okay, I have to remove my Batman fan self from this movie because you're supposed to be giving me Joker, and that's like, if I don't hear a laugh, like a good laugh, I'm sorry, you're not giving me Joker. Like, Mark Hamill's Joker laugh is one of the most iconic sounds to come out of a villain behind like Darth Vader's labored breathing. Like, I'm pretty sure he's number 2 behind Vader.
Yeah, and the fact that one actor has a connection to both of those villains quite deeply is pretty
right.
funny.
Yeah. Let's see. The audience had a couple things to comment about on this topic.
Yeah.
Let's see. First off, the Dead Man popped in. Thank you, the Dead Man. He says, watch Joe Rogan Experience AJ Gentile. I watch a lot more Joe Rogan than I ever talk about. Like, when I'm cooking, I'll listen to the clips. So I will check that out, Dead Man.
I actually listened to the entire podcast episode. What was it? Like a month, maybe 2 months ago. They did with that dude that's heading up the cloning of the wolves.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I was like, this is super interesting, not just because I like wolves, because I like dogs, but just the science behind it and the discussion they were having was super interesting.
I think what's going to be funny is that in the next, I'm pretty sure in the next 4 weeks or so, Jordan Peterson's going to go on there to do some sort of like apology or recovery tour after his totally botched debate with a bunch of atheists.
Oh, goodness.
I thought that was funny.
I haven't paid attention to any of
that. Both
that.
guys were pretty arrogant, but I was quite entertained with that, listening to it on the commute yesterday.
I have not been up to date with that guy. I just knew his book because we knew the guy that did the art for it. But other than that, like, I don't really follow him. I know he says clean your room, and that's about it.
He does say clean your, which is not bad advice.
Well, I keep this office better than I ever have. So thanks, Doctor.
I'm going to hire a maid. I got too much stuff to do.
Well, I don't trust the maids to touch my stuff, so.
Oh, I'm not leaving them alone in my place. I'll be working and watching them. Like, don't use chemicals on that. That's a Batman cowl from 1966. Damp cloth.
Don't you dare dust my Power Ranger dolls. I don't know. I'm just making shit up now. No, don't dust my Batman. I have a Batman cowl from The Dark Knight Returns. It's it's fun. I don't really collect a ton of Batman, but I do have some stuff. Folks, you will see that. I'll do, for the patrons and the members, I'll do themed portions. So, like, we'll do a Batman episode where it'll literally be like everything I have here Batman-wise. So you'll get stuff from McDonald's toys to Hot Toys. and everything in between.
Hmm.
Yep. My Batmobile from Batman Forever just sits on a desk because I don't have anywhere to put it, but I ain't gonna throw it away.
I've got a Batman Returns Batmobile on my dresser. I've got the Adam West Batman cowl replica. Like, it's a 1-for-1. Fabric is the same reams he wore back in the day. On another mantle. Gosh, I'm surrounded by at least 14 different Batman action figures. 3 of them are 3 additional ones are actually identical. I got a lot of Batman and Superman stuff in my little office here. My girlfriend finds it comical.
It was funny. I had joked with the guys on the 3POI podcast. It's like, oh man, collecting stuff would make it hard to date. And literally the first woman I talked to is like, what a cool collection. And we start talking about this shit. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess it's not that big of a deal in 2025.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Like the amount of toys my girlfriend bought me last year to like add to the collection, because she's like, oh, you don't have these ones. And I was looking up your figure because I wanted to see what I could get you for an anniversary. And I noticed like there's all these other figures that are supposed to go with this collection. So I found them all on eBay for really cheap, but the shipping was outrageous. But yeah, I have a ton of them. Some in the original boxes from like the 1980s, like mid 80s.
There's a level of dedication and appreciation for the hobby that requires, because I think I can speak for all of us here as geek dudes and geek dudes who all make some money. If there's something we want, we kind of just get it.
Yep.
And so we can be incredibly difficult to buy for. It's like, well, what the freaking hell do they not already have? Right?
Yeah. Like she had to do her
Scores.
research because a lot of the stuff you don't find it online with the sets accurately. You have to like buy one of the boxes so you can see the figures on the back of what that collection was.
Yeah.
To get the right one.
That is a keeper script. That is a keeper.
I think so.
I had a girlfriend in college that would buy me Star Wars figures. I'd take her on dates and we'd do stuff, and she's like, "Here, you don't have this Sand Trooper." I'm like, "Thanks." It was cool.
That is
and then my
cool.
buddy bought me a Millennium Falcon. It's a weird story, but he got his girlfriend in college pregnant, and then their church gave them like a ton of money because I guess whatever. But he's like, "I'm moving away, and I'm gonna miss hanging out." So he bought me this giant Millennium Falcon from Hasbro. And,
Damn.
Yeah, he edits like he and I are still close. I have him edit the comic books. He edited Stealing Solo and Wokebusters and stuff. And
right on.
In college, it was our dream to do a comic together. So we did a couple. He like wrote out an outline, and I did some designs. And then a little later in school, I actually drew one of them, and it's the biggest piece of shit ever. It will never see the light of day. Like, I'm not even gonna tell you what it's called or what it's about because I don't want people to know I'm involved with it. But it was terrible. My local friends know about it. It's a joke among us. But, then he ended up becoming a pro wrestler. I know that's such a weird thing to say, but, like, his career trajectory, he went from, like, politician to pro wrestler. So, good for him. And the comics stayed my dream. But as a way to keep him involved, I have him edited. Because I don't need help with the writing portion. But I'm like, hey, man, does this make sense? And he reads it without seeing the art, so...
Dude.
Remaster it. I'm not remastering a Cosmic Vader.
Special edition of it.
Oh God!
Call it the specialized edition.
The specialized edition of Go Back to Where You Came From. Okay, sure.
That's great.
I have one day after we get the Stealing Solo trilogy out, and I have locked in my place in comic books. I'll go through that box and I'll share with you some of the crazier shit I've made, just as a joke. Like, I once challenged myself to stay up for as long as possible and do a whole comic. So it's like an 8 or 10 page story. But I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this. And so Dion from the show, we all lived together. And I was like, all right, I'll see you guys in the morning. And I just stayed up and worked on it. And they got up the next morning like, you're still doing it? I'm like, yep, I did it. I did all kinds of weird shit like that.
I've done that. I've written screenplays from start to finish in a single night. Scared the crap out of my dad. He went to work a 12-hour shift. He comes home. You're still typing? I just finished. I'm going to print off the script, and then I'm going to go take a nap. He's like, Jesus.
When you find your passion and what you're able to do well,
yep,
it's easy, man. Like, knocking out pages for this next book has been so much fun. Like, I penciled Actually, yeah, because penciling is easy because I ink it is where I take more time. I penciled a whole page from like dinner to this show. So tomorrow when I wake up, I got a video to make, and then it's inking, and then it's back to videos and inking. Like, I want to do more YouTube because you guys love it and I love doing it, but I'm really ready to bring the next solo book because I told the lady at the banquet.
I'm ready to help promote the next solo book.
I appreciate this. I want this thing to do better than the first Stealing Solo, both of those campaigns combined. And they did well, but that is my goal.
They did really well.
Yeah, 50 and 71K respectively. So I want to top that with this.
Years.
Let's do it.
Let's aim for that. Let's do it.
Andrew, there might be a background character that I could turn you into if you're interested. So
I don't care if I get killed off. I don't care what happens. I am all for it.
I just want to be on the side of a milk carton, missing.
I want to beat. No. Y'all understand this reference, considering what movie came out in the last month. I want to be on the Wheaties box.
There you go. Have you seen the full scale Wheaties? Full scale is one. Never mind. Have you seen the giant Wheaties box they have in movie theaters for that film?
Yeah, I've seen a couple.
I haven't. No.
It's pretty cool. I made a short of it for the hell of it, but it was very well done. I'm a little sad that the movie kind of bombed because the marketing was on.
Because it was actually fun.
Yeah, it's Marvel fatigue. It's so many different things, and everybody's not wrong.
It's basically a track record of 7 to 8 pretty mediocre to terrible films.
Yeah.
So
what do you expect at that point?
When you have one solid one, it's not going to make waves. It's going to generate interest, and hopefully that will carry over to the next one. And if the next one is good, that will.
What it is you have to understand. You got to take your lumps. Like, all right, now you're putting in the work again, but you got to show that there's some consistency going forward with that. Because otherwise it's like, oh, well, there was a one-off. Okay, so 1 out of 10. All right. Sun shines on a dog's asshole twice a day, right? Like, so.
What?
Good job. What? Congratulations. You want a cookie? Sorry, that's not good enough. You got to show some consistency. You might get some people like us, which I think we all more or less enjoyed the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to continue to build on that. So you'll have people like us who will try and convince others like, hey, we had a good time with it. It was actually fun. It wasn't like the last 8 or 9 films that they put out that were crap or super mediocre, right?
Right.
And we might be able to convince some people, but you have to have consistency. You have to convince people that you are actually dedicated to making, them have a reason to go to the theater and see your film. Like, worth their while. You got to do that more than just once. You got to do it 2, 3, 4, maybe more times in a row before you start building that momentum again. So, honestly, like with their current slate, I don't necessarily see that happening. We'll see. I'm super not sold on Fantastic Four outside of its visuals, just because I cannot stand Pedro Pascal. He's honestly he's running
around here that he's like evil Reed Richards like maker, and if that's going to be the case, I'm like, you could work with that.
You could, but even at the same time, I'd be like, man, with the maker, really? You do maker? No, make somebody cooler. The maker, like I want the maker to be somebody actually cool. I could see Michael Fassbender playing the maker. He's Magneto.
Yeah.
Like get somebody who doesn't look like they're freaking half homeless, right? Like Pedro Pascal with facial hair looks like he's half homeless. He doesn't know whether or not he actually has a place to stay, right? And so he doesn't bother shaving. He might take a pair of scissors to his facial hair. Whatever.
He's lacking the testosterone needed for proper beard. Yeah.
Yeah. He can't grow facial hair. If Reed Richards is growing facial hair, it is a beard. Like it's more than I can do even. And I deliberately keep it super close because I get super hot, but I've grown it out before and I can grow a pretty good beard, but Reed Richards should look really good, really full. He can't grow facial hairs. He looks like the freaking 14-year-old boys I went to high school with that were trying to grow a beard. Like, oh, look at me. I'm a man. Like, bro, you got like 3 scraggly hairs growing on the side of your face. What are you talking about right now?
Yeah, you look like...
That's what Pedro Pascal looks like when he tries to grow facial hair.
Yeah, he looks like someone that doesn't shower.
Yeah, like, dude, you look like you smell. I'm sorry.
I've said that to people before.
It's true though.
And it's always with the scraggly mustache and the bad face. You're like, yeah,
it's
you look
exactly
like
what it is, right? It's exactly what it is. And so, obviously, I've said on the show before, like the trailer outside of Pedro looks actually pretty good. Like there's some really bad screenshots of Fem's Silver Surfer, which is a stupid bullshit reason for them to use her at all anyway. But like in the actual more recent trailers, she looks fine. So if you just take it at face value, okay, so she looks fine. I'd rather actually have Silver Surfer. But everything else about the trailer looks solid. I just honestly, if you put Pedro Pascal in something at this point for me, that's more of a detriment than a sell. I'm less inclined to go see your production.
The only movie he was in that I got excited to see and didn't care that he was in was not How to Win Friends, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Nicolas Cage. That movie was awesome.
I've never seen that one.
Oh, you have to watch it. Have a couple drinks. Just relax and watch it. That movie's ridiculous.
Okay. What is it? A comedy, thriller?
Yeah, it's comedy.
It's a comedy. Okay.
Nicolas Cage plays Nicolas Cage.
I know Nicolas Cage can do comedy, but it's usually because he's being Nicolas Cage.
Well, he and Pedro Pascal get high and drive around, and like Pedro Pascal was probably high when he made the movie, but it's a very good performance. Like I enjoyed it thoroughly.
I don't even think he's a bad actor. I just think he's overcast, and he doesn't look the part for a lot of things that he's cast in.
You're not alone, man.
So it's frustrating.
Not alone.
Because even though I'm not a massive Fantastic Four fan, I do probably have this idealized or pseudo-idealized vision of Reed Richards in my head of what he should look like if you're going to actually cast him in live action. And
I would even
Pedro Pascal is not it.
I would actually be okay with him if he just got rid of the damn mustache. And I know that's being nitpicky, but that'd be like having Batman with a mustache. Like the character just doesn't have it. Or it's like putting Batman in a chartreuse pair of underwear or some dumb shit. You're just like,
chartreuse underwears.
Hey, you just don't do things like that. I'll you know what? I'll reserve judgment. I was very positive towards the trailer after the full one came out, but the more I think
the trailer was good.
Well, the more I watch the trailer, I should say, every time I see it on the big screen at a movie, I go, and that's all I can say is like, that's the. I know, folks. I know this is an audio podcast, and you're like, all you're doing is saying, but I can't verbalize the apathy I feel in a more positive way because I can't just go everything sucks, blah blah blah. That's not me. But I have finally begun to understand the Fantastic Four as of last Christmas, and so I'm hoping that it captures that spirit because I've been listening as I work on this book to the Avengers audio drama, and they interact with the Fantastic Four, and there's just this balance that I hope the film carries. And one last nitpick, I hate the Thing's voice. Like, damn it, he needs to have that accent. He sounds so soft spoken and too nice. He's gruff.
If there was anything they did get right in that early 2000s film, the first one, Ben Grimm's voice sounded kind of on point. I was like, all right, this is fine. I'm not. I don't actually mind. I know a lot of people were clowning on or attempting to clown on like his visuals, his design. It's like, dude, all right, so you never picked up a Jack Kirby Fantastic Four comic because like that design is basically 3D render Jack Kirby thing, and whether or not I care for the Fantastic Four overall is irrelevant. Like that's just kind of an objective thing. Like they took that design and went with it. For me, it's really all the Reed because he's going to be the focus, and I think he looks goofy. They're saying that. I don't buy it, honestly. I really don't buy it.
Because I think she's the least interesting part of that team.
She is. No, she's absolutely the least interesting part of that team outside of if she is having an interaction with Doom or with Namor, and I only say that because there's context moving forward of funny stuff that happens in the comics that comes outside of it. Um, I think that is actually going to be a case of like with the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves film, where like the marketing is saying one thing in order to like drum up the positive press, right? Or drum up even the negative press deliberately to get, you know, people having, you know, bees in their pants or whatever. And then it's not actually in the film.
Well,
I honestly think that's probably going to be the case with this. And so I'm going to keep my sticking point as Pedro Pascal is just a non-sell for me.
Well, what we call those people here on the channel are jabronis. So I guess
They are
Pedro
jabronis.
Pascal's a jabroni. Now, a person who is not a jabroni is our
Whether
friend
it's
Xavier
Jake the
Degas.
Snake saying it or The Rock saying it.
Yeah. Or the Iron Sheik, baby.
Or
God, he's
Sheiky
just-
baby.
Xavier Degas, thank you. He says, Bat in the Sun did Batman versus Deadpool, featuring Catwoman. I'll have to look at the costumes, because that's the part I do like.
Mhm.
Wasn't there a Wonder Woman versus Wolverine?
I don't think I saw that
They
one.
pretty much had almost every of the major DC and Marvel characters fight each other. They even had like Darth Vader fight Batman.
That one was stupid.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's like, with prep time, Batman. It doesn't matter. Darth Vader can choke you with his mind. Batman, he could sense that Batman's going to attack him. Why not just use the Force to snap his neck and end the story instantly? No Bat Pulse Grenade's going to save the day.
Right.
But thank you, Xavier to God. I don't want to go back and to watch those, but I kind of want to, I don't know, immersing myself in this kind of content helps the stories that I make go quicker. Because I'm like, okay, this is why I love this shit. Now, I don't ever want to see the cast of Stealing Solo 2 show up in a Bat in the Sun production, because we will take down no one. Harrison Ford beat our asses in that comic book.
I love the honesty there.
I think that's the brilliant part. Like, it's just someone just shows up and be like, nope, we give up.
We're just a group of schmoes.
We're accidental felons. That's really what we are. It's like, does that mean we can, like, maybe in a fist fight we could take down like 3 of the Ghostbusters, like the real life versions, but that's about it. So
That's
Ernie
only
Hudson
because
will
you're
love us.
7 feet tall, Jeff.
7'9", get it right.
My bad. I forgot
gonna
those
start-
extra 9 inches.
I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start telling people that I'm 7'9" on the channel, so when they meet me, they go, "You're really short, aren't you?" I'm like, no, 6'5", but I just got you. Thank you to the Critic Box. Did y'all watch Andor season 2?
No,
Critic Box.
I didn't watch Andor season 1.
I watched a couple of minutes, and I wasn't feeling it. And now that it's over, I don't know if I'll be feeling it anymore. It's not. I can't give you a judgment on it because I haven't watched it. But I don't feel the urge to watch it because I found the first season to be visually interesting, but a smidge boring. I think people equate serious tone and somber elements as realistic, or they add quality to it. Maybe it's part of the Nolan brainwashing. But Star Wars has always been high adventure and fun, and dare I say, a little bit of funny. Like, the first Star Wars movie has great lines, like when he, what the hell are you doing? And she's shooting the shit at the, at the grate to go down to the trash compactor, or
Got a plan
like,
to come in here. Didn't he have a plan to get out?
yeah, he's the brain, sweetheart. Like, all that stuff is chuckle-worthy. And I think The Empire Strikes Back, the whole I'm not a committee, like, I always laugh when I watch that scene.
Yeah.
But, and those are what I and many Star Wars fans put at the top of the list of the greatest, portions of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
But just being serious for the case of it kind of turned me off, so I didn't watch it. So Critic Box, if I ever do watch it, I will let people know. If I feel the need to talk about it on the channel, I will. But the only thing I feel the need to do is just watch the original film or sit through the 4K version on disc because it looks pretty, but it has McClunky, which really sucks ass.
So that's why you need like 4K 77.
Yes and no. I'm glad you brought this up. I found this really niche podcast last night when I couldn't sleep, and it was talking about the restoration of Star Wars, all the side-by-side comparisons and stuff. And I have 4K 77, And my only complaint, like two complaints: the audio isn't that great. It sounds a little tinny, and secondly, they're trying to recapture the look of what you saw in the theater in 1977. And I'm of the mind that I want to see it the way it's supposed to look, like you're in the room, like you're just this invisible person and you can watch it. And so I don't care it depending on the type of bulb that's used in the projector or the flicker or the slightly different tints. Like that's limitations of the technology of the 1970s. It's supposed to look a certain way. And so if it's color graded to be accurate to what it's supposed to look like, not all the different revisions and blue tints and orange hues they added for the Blu-rays, like that's where I go. So somebody was arguing, oh, well, you can see the sky. It's too clear. It's supposed to be blown out because that's how it looked on screen. That's again, that plays into the nostalgia factor of like videotape. Technical limitations are not justification for a movie to look a certain way.
Yeah, technical limitations are not the same thing as creator's vision.
Yeah. And I don't think George Lucas's creator's vision is that strong anymore. And I don't think it's been that strong since about 1990 something.
1999, at least.
Well, I learned through this podcast that George Lucas was the post-production supervisor for Jurassic Park because Steven Spielberg fucked off and had to go make Schindler's List. So Spielberg gave that to Lucas to work on. And Lucas learned what you could do with this technology, and he found a way to get 20th Century Fox to pay to do a test for the Star Wars prequels by creating the Star Wars special editions. And I went, now it all makes so much sense. And it just, it's a smart business move, I suppose. But at the end of the day, just pull a Blade Runner and give everybody every edit. And then let me make my own fan edit where it's the original up until they escape the Death Star. And then once that's the flight back to Yavin, it's the newer version. And then the movie ends because there are a couple changes that I stand by are better in the special editions. But that's a topic for...
I mean, some of the visuals are genuine improvements.
Yeah,
right?
Just the spaceship stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. But then a lot of the other stuff narratively was not necessary and didn't actually
is the worst part of that movie.
Oh yeah.
Like, so you're talking about New Hope, right?
Yes.
So like Jabba the Hutt's introduction and inclusion in A New Hope, Episode 4, Star Wars, whatever you want to call it, doesn't bother me on its face beyond it just being completely unnecessary. It doesn't actually add anything.
It's
like
redundant.
I see that scene and I'm like, okay, so you're clearly just trying to show off the technology you have access to right now. It doesn't add anything to the story. It doesn't give us any new information that we didn't already have that was either directly stated or implied by the dialogue that Han had been having. So why is it here? Oh, because as you just said, Jeff, like it was like a test screening essentially for greenlighting the prequels, right? And so it's like that makes everything make so much more sense. It's completely unnecessary. I see it and I'm like, I'm not mad, but I'm just kind of like, can we get past this? This is not needed here. Can we just move along?
I see what you did there. Move along.
Well, frankly, it was a scene that repeated too much information and it didn't escalate the stakes the way you wanted it to because Greedo already said all those things.
Yeah, well, that's why I said it's not giving us any new information that we didn't already have via either direct dialogue or implied.
Yep, but I will say, like, even when you take a look at that the new Death Star run, the attack on the Death Star, it's really only a handful of shots that are replaced. Everything else is still the original.
Yep.
Like, I mean, he just made a little bit more of a dynamic set of movements and also added in some computer animated pilots that were moving inside the X-Wings and Y-Wings so you could see that they're more immersive. And I thought that's some good stuff. But yeah, with Empire, you didn't need all the extra Wampa stuff. And it also has the least amount of changes compared to...
Yeah, because it's the damn fine film.
That's right.
It's because Empire is basically perfect as it is.
Yeah, like I wasn't upset with the additions of making Cloud City a little bit more expansive and less, inside of a set. But even when you watch the original version where it is very much inside of a set, you still kind of feel pulled into it. It makes sense. So I dug it.
The thing I wish what was done again was just to make the ships match, because like the ships are darker. They're not the same colors as the models.
Right.
And so
Yeah, they use a different color. Yeah.
I don't mind, like, I wouldn't mind if they were to, like, say, like, before he sold it off to Disney, or in a world where he never sold it to Disney, that he redid all of the... I don't want him to redo all the model work, but if he did, I wouldn't have minded if it all matched. Because, you're right, it's only a handful of shots, but the handful of shots they do redo are a lot better, because they fix the perspective. Because there's this, like, I have this gripe with a lot of old movies, and it's just me being an artist or picky, but if the thing is flying in a straight line to a point, it would recede into the, to the horizon.
Right.
But those older, like Star Wars, the ships are slightly turned because they can't figure out, or they just didn't do it that way. So they're slightly turned, and they don't really go straight. They're kind of gliding at like a 15-degree angle. And there's just a couple of shots, and then like it always just takes me out of the scene. Like, my favorite shot of the special edition is when they're flying away from the Death Star. At that last like 3 seconds, it just they fly right into the camera. And it looks dynamic. It's like little shit like that. And maybe it's because I grew up with that version, but that's just little things like that that made me happy.
Well, that's because the support beam that they use to put the models on, they have to put it at a certain angle to hide the connector. So that's why you got those weird odd angles of the ships going in certain ways. Because I mean, even in the original version, them keying out the Millennium Falcon when it escapes the Death Star, you see that block underneath it of where the stand was while the camera was moving away. And every effort they did, even like when they converted to the VHS thing to try and fix it in post, never worked. It wasn't until the special editions where they were finally able to get rid of that. But that's just because, chroma keying at that time, they were using blue screen before they went over to green screen, which came like a half generation later. And it was tricky because nobody had ever done chroma key like this before. Like, chroma key was most often used on news broadcasts for chyrons and inserting footage that rolled to tape type of stuff. When you did it in theater and movies productions, they'd actually have rear projection and basic matte paintings that they would overlay, and then use camera trick photography to make it look like it's movement, while they would move the object and keep the camera locked down. And Dykstra and all the guys at ILM said, no, let's keep the object locked down and move the camera and play around with that. And it's revolutionized special effects.
Yeah. It won an Oscar for a reason, and we still talk about it to this day for a reason, not just because we're nerding out. It's legitimately that good.
But you know what's the funniest part is when the camcorder came to be a thing, a lot of kids through their own accident just did the exact same thing that ILM was doing. They'd put their action figures on or their starships on a little stick, and then they'd move the camera around that to make it look like it's moving. But they didn't have the chroma key effect, but they did the exact same principle, which is they just moved the camera around, and now it looks like the ship is moving somewhere. Yeah. And if they ever did get into editing in the future, especially linear editing, they could then key that out, a few years later, and holy crap, at their home, they just repeated a special effect that was invented, 15 years prior, very easily. And then today, heck, you don't even do models in camera technique anymore. It's all done on a computer, which loses a lot of life. And then with the new AI stuff that Google dropped, while their human characters are very flawed, their objects like ships, vehicles, landscapes are very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe somebody will make an interesting Star Wars fan film and use some bitchin' special effects now.
You could take the old gameplay of Star Fox from N64 and pump it in through that system, and they would hyper realize it for you.
Mm.
Yeah, I have looked into that already. I'm learning how to use it just for this channel, for many things. It makes sense to know how to use it.
I can make some video memes that I've been dying to make for years because it's been hard for me to find actors that look the way I need them to look, to do the things I need them to do in the funny ways that insults the people that deserve to be insulted.
Well, when you do, send them my way. I want to check them out. Our friend the Dead Man says, for script, and it's a poop.
Oh, thank you, the Dead Man. Always appreciated.
Thanks for that.
Thanks, Undertaker.
Hey.
Mary Mayhem says, finally, a ginger who gets to replace so in a reboot. Hashtag Ron was done dirty. Hashtag gingers need love too.
I think she means doesn't get replaced in a reboot, since like freaking gingers always get race swapped or something.
Jane Watson?
Name any redhead ever, almost, right? And they get swapped out almost immediately. They're the first thing to get swapped. And I'm with Mary on this one. I was genuinely shocked when I saw that article earlier this afternoon. I was like, Ron is like not just kind of redhead, like he's redhead, like he is ginger AF.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, he's of the smaller minority that used to be replaced by the slightly larger minority.
Right? Yeah. Thank you, Mary, for the $4.99.
You should make a book called Ginger AF, dude. It'll be your
Ginger
memoir.
AF.
It's like
I feel like that
male.
would be cultural appropriation. I'm not ginger myself.
No, but you just have to keep the guy out of the sun all the time because that's his weakness.
They definitely have an allergy to sunlight for sure.
That's my next comic book. Thank you, Mary. We have to catch up soon. The Dead Man also says, watch Joe Rogan's AJ Gentile. You know what? I'm going to make sure I take a picture of that. And tomorrow when I'm on the bike, if I'm not watching an action movie, I will listen to that. I'll put it on the TV. Because, I don't know, man. My last movie was Tropic Thunder, which was a great choice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you hear that they're actually talking about doing a spinoff right now?
Unless it's Tom Cruise's character, I don't want to see it.
No, that's exactly Les Grossman is exactly what they want to do. They want to do specifically a Les Grossman spinoff.
If they can get Ben Stiller and some of his cohorts to really hash out some unapologetic jokes for that character, I'm down.
Same. Tropic Thunder is amazing. I've said it countless times. I'll continue to say it countless times. It's one of the best comedies ever, and it's probably the last truly great comedy. I love 21 Jump Street, but it pales in comparison to Tropic Thunder.
Ben Stiller spent 25 years writing that movie.
Well,
25 years?
Yes, because he got inspired to write it from Empire of the Sun.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
That's right. And some of the stories he heard about that production and everything going forward with that, and that's how he came up with Tropic Thunder.
That's
Such
remarkable.
a good movie.
That's cool. That's fun information to have.
It's my favorite Robert Downey Jr. performance, too. I know everyone goes to Iron Man, but Kirk Lazarus is my favorite.
Fair enough.
It's ridiculous. Like, he can't break character. I know who I am.
I'm the dude playing the dude disguised as another dude.
Disguised as another dude. There.
What do you mean, you people? For 400 years, that word has kept us down.
400 years, that word has kept us down.
Man.
Just because the song don't make it not true. It's such a great
Moving
film.
on up. Yep.
Oh, shit, the DVD commentary is Lincoln Osiris. I have never watched the commentary.
Oh, dude, the commentary is great because he is Lincoln in that commentary.
Shit, I don't break character to the DVD commentary. That's very on brand.
That's pretty impressive.
Thank you, Ben Stiller. Thank you. So, guys, I think we have reached a very good ending point. We've talked about crossovers, recastings, and other BS that is not world class, and we've had a fairly large audience doing it. Folks, the crossover between all the platforms is getting us closer to where we want to get. We want to get back to about 1,000 people watching live. So let us know what you would like us to do for the... God damn it, Sandra, you got me. We're going to bring back some bracket battle. We're going to do that as a separate show. We're going to do it in rounds of 3, and I will be getting guests from all over the internet to play with us. So you have seen some tests of that. And guys, I will call you up for topics if you're interested. Like 1 week we'll do Star Trek movies, or we'll do because the thing is, some of the brackets won't take very long. If we're going to do like if we do Godzilla, that's an all-day thing, which we won't do that because that'd be too hard.
That's a long stream, Jeff. Give me a 2 weeks advance notice so I can let work know.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna be trapped.
Yeah, sorry guys, I can't write, I can't edit, I can't approve and proofread and all of that. I got to focus on this Godzilla stuff right here.
I mean, Godzilla is life. So
I mean, I like my Godzilla stuff.
I do too. I'm not as enthusiastic as you, but growing up, I used to rent those tapes because that's when I'm on the show and I say like, hey folks, I didn't watch a lot of kiddie stuff growing up. There was that window where I liked Aladdin and the Lion King, and then by like mid-grade school, I'm renting Godzilla tapes and watching horror movies and all this other stuff. You know, all the kids are going, oh, we saw Hercules this weekend. Well, I watched Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Like, you know, I was into like different shit. And it kind of shows, but I like a lot of stuff. I'm pretty open-minded. Like with music, I like most music besides country. So I like most movies besides like romance, and I don't do Bollywood films. And
the only people who aren't Indian that like Bollywood films are women.
Yeah, I know some white ladies who talk about Bollywood like it's the next best thing. And I'm like, listen, you enjoy it. I will literally go watch anything else. I'll watch Miami Vice again. That's what I want to watch. Show's great. The movie's okay. I can tolerate it. But guys, thank you for joining me tonight. Folks, thank you to all of you out there. Hit that thumbs up button on the way out. I know it's just a quick little thing to ask. We ask it a lot, but it helps us grow the channel. And we want to take this channel to 300K very soon. I want to ramp things up and get it going. We got some new exciting things coming, some new guests coming along as well. But folks, I'll be back on Thursday live, but we'll have videos coming out tomorrow. We may actually have 2 videos out tomorrow. I know that's crazy. But
slow down there, Speedy.
I know. Well, one's a very important one, and one is a very funny one. And there are things that are coming out later in the week, and I don't want to stretch it too thin to where something's not relevant. So, folks,
fair.
You're getting some more. Thank you for watching. Swift -1. We will read your message in a minute. TLJ Screwjob says, Jeff, I got Wokebusters in hand today. Well, TLJ Screwjob, thank you for getting a copy of Wokebusters. If you bought it from the website, folks, I shipped the books out very quick. I had a guy buy a copy at 3 o'clock, and by 4 o'clock, it was in the mail at the post office. So go to Wokebusters.com right now. I pride myself. My turnaround time on my Shopify store is in the hours.
His trick is he lives behind the post office, ladies and gentlemen.
You're not wrong. I don't live very far from the post office at all. Like, I could walk there if I wanted to. But I'm just like, you know what? People are excited for these books. I'm excited to give them to them. Yes, you should, folks. Be excited for Wokebusters. Let's get rid of that print run this summer. There's only a handful left. So, realistically, if we had 100 more people here that were watching and everybody bought a copy, that'd be it. Because the Indiegogo people... I didn't realize how many Indiegogo people there were. Because I fulfilled all those books. I'm like, damn, a lot of people wanted remarked editions and postcards or trading card editions and all that stuff. So, yeah, Wokebusters is down to like, there's only one case of the purple box left, and a case holds like 33 books. So, that purple cover is super limited. If you want the real Ghostbusters toy cover, get it. But all the content of the book is the same. Swift -1, thank you very much for your super chat. I think AI will be so good in a few years that you can basically create entire TV seasons that never existed, like the 5th season of Alf, and look 99% real. Kendo loves that idea.
I think the models and the sets will be there. I think the content itself and also being able to direct these AI actors, as it were, is another huge leap that I don't think we're going to be making anytime soon.
There's a reason why a lot of the like AI model, whether it's motion or still imagery, it kind of all blends together for the most part. You got like 6 or 7 different art styles that you'll see. Or it's like, oh, well, okay, so you're probably using the same program as this guy over here. And that's because there are certain things, as Script said, AI just can't do just yet. And a directorial eye, like director of photography, like that's something that the technology is not there yet. I'm sure at some point it probably will get there, but we're not there yet.
No, they would have to
it's a
build.
ways off from that. That's
You'd have to
something that's
see-
intuitive.
No, you'd have to see a virtual set in 3D space and be able to drag and move your camera, change the focal length, do all the shot compositions with the models in play. So you'd be able to look at it as if you were watching like a Sims version of a video game, and then you'd be able to place your camera where you need to for the shots you want, for the takes that you want, and do it that way. But right now, and I ask all of you guys to try and see if you keep an eye out for this. If you take a look at some of the recently Google released AI videos, and you take a look at the skin on the AI characters, and if they're up against like a flat wall, you'll notice that the pixelation or pores on the skin are identical to the pixelation and divots within the wall behind them. So even though there's different color and contrast, the graininess of both exist, even though there's no actual artificial film grain. So that's one way you can kind of pick it up. Like you can't see the nice contrast and smoothness of a human form versus like say a wall that's got like a stucco on the back part or like or some sort of like design. There's something off on that where the texture of the walls or textures of the background kind of overlay and are manipulated to look hyper real, but are still off because there's the same textures used everywhere else.
I'm going to pay attention to that. You've probably ruined it for me now, but I'm still going to learn how to use it for fun.
Don't worry, they'll fix that problem soon enough.
It'll get fixed eventually, yeah.
It's funny how everyone talks about AI with hands. I was listening to some podcasts. They're like, why does AI have trouble with hands? Because in art, hands are one of the hardest things to draw.
Hands and feet, man. Hands and feet are the things that are some of the hardest things to draw. I can say that as somebody who can't really draw.
And Michael Crichton predicted it back when in the 70s when he did Westworld, when the robot's hands is like the robot's hands are how you can tell they're robots.
Yeah, that Westworld's a great movie. Got that one on disc.
Yep.
That is my favorite Michael Crichton story. Sorry, Jurassic Park. You're a good movie. I'm taking Westworld.
You're a better book.
What, Jurassic Park?
Jurassic Park's a better book.
I haven't read the books. Sorry, I'm a movie guy.
I read the first book when I was like 9 years old, 8 years old, something like that.
I saw Jurassic Park.
And even at that single digit age, I understood that the book was better than the movie.
Well, that's the case for a lot of stuff. I will say that there is not a there's only one James Bond book that is better than its movie counterpart, and that is Moonraker.
Yes, it
is.
is.
Other than that, the movies blow every book out of the water. Like, the books are good, but you don't have Sean Connery's charisma. You don't have that badass edge. And those movies are funny, too. People are like, oh, James Bond is serious. No, they're pretty funny.
They're tongue-in-cheek. Like, the way that Ian Fleming writes...
There's just not Joss Whedon humor.
Yeah, the way that Ian Fleming wrote James Bond, he's a little bit more cold. And Sean Connery gives a little bit more life to it.
That's why he's tied for the best in my eyes. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching, folks. Yeah, Goldfinger is way better than the book as well, Clone Geek. You don't want to hear James Bond go on about romance as he drives to France or wherever he's driving to.
Oh, you don't?
No, he wants to get married someday.
Darn.
And then he talks about scrambled eggs, and then there's something about a fireplace and dinner with Goldfinger. It's so different. The movie kicks ass. And I will have that 4K box set in a few days. Oh, I think it drops on the 10th. Yeah, I can't wait. I got the steelbook. Like, it's a steel box, and then each movie is in its own steel book. So
nice.
It's James
How much
Bond.
was that?
I think it was like $110. It wasn't that
really.
Much
That's
money.
it.
That's a good deal for steelbooks. Yeah,
it's completely gone too. Like, you can't get it. I saw.
I believe it.
Up. I set my alarm, and I was like, I need this, and I pre-ordered it the second it went live, and I'm like, okay.
Dude, I'm willing to bet that whenever they release the full franchise 8-film Mission Impossible 4K, not Steelbook, it'll probably be more than that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, though, Mission Impossible, and I could be wrong, Script, I do want you to correct me, but like certain catalog titles don't hold the value like to the modern age or the modern day audience, so you'll have more people rush out to buy Mission Impossible, and it'll do better no matter what. I think James Bond needs to have more bells and whistles to sell, because some of these Bond movies are a hard sell. Like, You Only Live Twice is not that great. You're not going to sell that to your average person. But, you know, you could sell him Goldfinger, you could sell him Dr. No and Thunderball and a couple of those, but Mission Impossible I guess on a percentage base, has better. It only has 2 bad films out of 8.
Well, you've got basically what's called market saturation. So you're absolutely true with regards to like certain qualities of titles within a franchise definitely have lower rates because they know they're not going to sell as much. Usually that comes from like the first run of the physical media. And because it didn't sell so much, they're like, well, we got extras, so we got to lower the price. And we know that the only way we can kind of get our value back is if we put them into box sets. James Bond, 60 years. You have a 60-year legacy. Some of those movies, decades old. Majority of the audience has them already or has whether they bought them themselves or they were gifted to them from people that bought the original ones and hand-me-downs type of stuff. So really what you're looking for is you're looking at hitting the collector's market. And on top of that, when you're hitting the collector's market with movies that are like 40 to 60 years old, you realize that you cannot extort more than, $150, $200 for an entire complete collection, because they tried doing that in the early stage DVD era of the traditional Bond films. If you remember the box sets and the individual ones that came out, they're selling the individuals for like $12.99, but the box set was like close to $400. And they found out that, a lot of people, and a good number of people bought the box sets, but not all of them, not in the quantity that they had. And those started getting marked down pretty rapidly as Casino Royale was on approach to being announced. I remember that pretty vividly too, because I wanted a box set, and I'm like, wow, look at that. That is very expensive. And then as soon as Casino Royale was announced, the box set dropped down to like $325 where I was. And then after it was released, you could probably get it for like $250, and then eventually you got it for like $199.
The crazy part is on the Ultimate Edition box set, which I think the ones you're talking about, at Suncoast Video, they clearanced them for like $30 each. Like, because there were the single releases, and then there were the thinner, like 4 or 5 movies per box set. Maybe it was 7. And then there was the big deluxe box that you're talking about.
Yeah.
The smaller boxes that contained multiple films, I got those so cheap. I bought them just to have them. I ended up gifting them to Dion. And luckily, the Blu-rays, that I have the Blu-ray box at the 50, no. Yeah, I guess that's 50. Yeah, there's a 50th anniversary one that I keep in the living room. That one's awesome. That one has it has enough space to fit every James Bond movie in it. If you take out the bonus feature disc, you can fit everything through Spectre. And then No Time to Die I got on 4K, which I've never even taken out of the package because that movie sucks. I bought it to have the whole set. So that's just me ranting. But I'm looking forward to that. I'm back on my physical media kick. I might watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly soon, because I heard the version I have is like the best one. So, all right, guys, thank you for watching. Ladies, thank you for watching too. We'll be back on Thursday live, but join me tomorrow for some videos. Until next time, folks, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.